Hello! Oh good, it is working. I forgot to test the mic while I was setting stuff up. Another day. Well, sometimes it disconnects. I think it's working now. So we're back with Crimson Spires because we finished The Walking Dead. I don't know if I updated my running schedule, but he did mention still see Clementines. No, it says story time of some kind. Yep, we're good. Weekends are now cozy Saturday and story time. Story time may vary, depending on what we've been playing, what we've got to play, how I feel. You know, it's much else. I am tired, but I think we worked out that we were only about halfway through this, and we've done 2 streams. I think 2 Sundays might do this, hopefully. I'm not sure. I remember looking it up vaguely. I think I figured out. We needed, definitely needed a couple more streams. So yeah, I will get started. So we've played 2 streams of this before, but this came out the 11th of August this year. It is East Asia Soft, published, Woodsea Studio developed, alongside East Asia Soft. And it's an interesting visual novel. So chapter-wise, did we end in chapter 5, 4? Alright, let me switch over. I can't remember. I know it just had changed chapters, so let me just see if I can load up the end of the last video to check what chapter it said we were going to, because we just basically trying to arrest a vampire. Hi, Dan. So far in the game, we are an FBI agent. We came chasing after an escaped criminal who was on their way to a trial, who had done lots of serial murders. We caught up with them, and then suddenly, outside of town, and then suddenly these giant crimson spikes. We just finished chapter 4. Giant crimson spikes came up out of the ground surrounding the town. Yeah. I think there are 10 chapters, and we've just finished chapter 4, so depends how many chapters we can finish today as to how far we get. So yeah, so the town's surrounded by spikes, which apparently is called like the contingency or something. I don't know, they keep on calling it something, but yeah, it's like weird things are now happening inside the town. You know, people have started worshipping Lucius Christ. You know, lots of people tried to get out, but every time anyone tried to get out, they got their head exploded. So no one can get out, but there's a train that comes in. And the people controlling the train have the same name as the town, which is Patale. And they turn out to be vampires. And then there was a murder. of the acting principal of the high school in the style of the Heartbreaker, which is the crime that August is accused of. We think he probably did do it, but he didn't do this one. Someone tried to frame him to distract the sheriff, which is us, the FBI agent, Erica. So at the end of chapter 4, we confronted Liam, and he's like, I did it. I didn't want to do it, but I did it. And is turning himself in. No! Betrayal means war. Battle, not bottle, you muppet. You do this every time, you get yays and yays mixed up. So, this is chapter 5. A train arrived today at the station. It carried 3 cars full of fresh food, drinks, and assorted supplies. These were things we need, so I find it hard to complain. Shirts, shoes, underwear, soap. And most importantly, things we can eat. Things we can't grow here, even if we tried. Fruits and vegetables and fresh meat. We've set up an ad hoc shop at the dollar store, and it's amazing to see the change that has come over the town. So I don't know whether this is flashing back to when it first started, but we're about 6 months into this thing. Hi, Ima, I think you have the wrong game. This is a visual novel called Crimson Spires. It is not a plane shooter, and I don't believe it was on the OG Xbox. But also, hi, Ima. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be based off a plane shooter, but I'm fairly certain this is just a plain old visual novel. A little bit of an adventure-y type game. Sadly, not a point and click. I think you might be getting it mixed up with something else. So yeah, so 6 months into what they started calling the contingency. They don't know why they've started calling it the contingency. So God knows where these towers came from. There's vampires in town. Oh yeah, 2 kids just went missing. They didn't try to escape. They haven't died. I think probably the vampires ate them. And yeah, it's all weird. And apparently the mayor knew that they were vampires, and he was helping them get blood. It's all very weird. So yeah, suddenly we don't have to worry about crimson skies. Okay, well, it's only a joke if the other party gets that it's a joke. I didn't know about crimson skies. So there we go. I'm also tired, so you have to bear with me. Yeah, hilarious. Suddenly we don't have to worry about whether this isolation will kill us. Suddenly everything is normal again, except for the dead people. But there's something that sticks in my craw and I can't shake it. You know, I'm mayor of this town, have been for 8 years. I grew up here, and I can't remember the last time a train came into Patale. I can't even remember setting foot on the train station. Did we always have a train station? The town hall was a 1-story building, and is now like many stories as well. Hi, Leaky. Oh no, Dan's trying to be funny as well. I'll let you get on with that. I'm just going to read the story. Of course we did. It's just I can't remember. There's no other explanation. I must have just forgotten. So yeah, so there's words, religion, and entire buildings that have just appeared, and everyone's treating them like it was normal. It's very odd. It's not like it could have just appeared out of nowhere. I have to admit, I'm surprised you never resisted. These bars. I actually believe I'm more comfortable here. You might think that until you have to ask me to leave the room so you can use the toilet. We don't actually need to. He's a vampire. I don't want to hear anymore. Unless we eat normal food, in which case... Dan! What did I just say?
Whatever.
I'm sorry. I just feel relieved. You're in jail. You killed a woman. But I'm alone. I like that feeling. No Julian, no Charlotte, no... His voice trails off. Someone else you want to tell me about? No. Just myself. I suppose I'll never be alone from myself, but this is as good as it gets. Will they come for you? Will they try and free you?
I'm not sure.
What's going on, Liam? What's all this about? Clearly you and your family know more than you're letting on.
Huh?
More about what? I don't know. Tell me, the contingency, the towers, what is going on outside Battail? There's not much I'm privy to, but I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. Tell me what you know about the towers.
I wish.
I could tell you. I've been trying to figure that out. You're right about one thing. My siblings are involved with more than you know. More than either of us knows. I spent the last few months working on a way to find out more. I want to study the towers and... No!
Huh?
What? I don't care what you've done. Stop thinking about things like that. Too many people have died trying to cross the tower. I don't want to cross them. I just want to figure out how they work so I can shut them down. That doesn't sound so unreasonable, does it? There's no way inside of them, at least none that I know of.
Actually.
Never mind, I'll drop it. Any other questions? I still need to understand your people better. My people? Vampires.
Well...
We drink blood, we don't like the sun, we sometimes lose control. What else is there to know? How did you become vampires? Who bit you? Was it Julian or Charlotte? I don't think anyone bit me. Not Julian or Charlotte either. I think some people can get converted through a bright bite, but I don't know much about that. Then how does it work? Where did vampires come from?
I have no idea.
We just are. Do you ask the clouds where they came from? First, I can't talk to the clouds. Second, I know how clouds are made. My point is that as far as I can tell, we have always existed. There have always been vampires. Do you have any weaknesses? I told you the sun makes us uncomfortable. Other than that, we can see our reflection, we can eat garlic. We're not disgusted by religion. In fact, my brother and sister are quite involved with the church. How's everyone doing today? It's Sunday already. Don't know how that keeps on happening. The Church of Lucius Christ?
Yeah.
When did that begin? Do you have memories of Jesus Christ too? Sorry. I do remember Jesus, actually. It's like it's split in my memories. I don't understand. My family worships Lucius, so that's all that matters now. Oh, most people only seem to remember one or the other, so that's unique. I'm never going to find anyone who can explain that one, am I? Hi, Kai. Liam just shrugs. I mean, Sleepy Waves yesterday at 11. It's 3 o'clock here. It's past midnight for you there. I'm going to be playing late this week as well, the lake. Either Tuesday or Thursday, haven't decided which. Just so you know. Excuse me, I have 2 yawns. Liam just shrugs. Anything else? What's happening outside of Battail? It's not a Bernstein Bears game, Imar. It's just a game that happens to have a similar name to something else. That's a good question. I've asked Charlotte what she knows, and all that she'll say is that it's dangerous. Dangerous how? She won't explain it to me, and I don't think she'll even explain it to Julian. She's never gone as far to say she's responsible for the towers, but she believes they are protecting us from something. So yeah, so we're on the road. It did look like there was like a werewolf or something, and then the towers came up. We never really got any further with that bit. That's awfully vague. But I don't think it's wrong. You can feel it, can't you? The world has turned. I don't know about that. All I know is that we're surrounded by towers that will kill us if we get too close.
Come on now.
Yes, that's what's happened, but I think it's important to think about why. If you have any answers, I'll take them. You have to get those out of Charlotte, I'm sorry. Any more questions? No, that's it. You don't know anything, and if you do, you're not talking.
Hey,
Julian and Charlotte are who you want, if you want answers. So, they really don't tell you anything. I just find it hard to believe.
I'm hurt too.
They don't see me shit. They don't see me as one of them. Believe it, I finally do. If that's true, then I'm wasting time. You said they put you up to killing Terry. I swear it. Then the next step is to bring them in too. Maybe when you're all in this cell, they'll have time to explain everything to both of us.
No way.
Can't do that. It's conspiracy to commit murder. They are just as culpable as you. That's not what I mean. They aren't like me. They won't come willingly. And if it ends in violence, you will not come out on top. I have to try. I'll see if I can get any help from the mayor. I don't understand the weird little fence. The weird little fence around the desk is like... Huh? Oh yeah, and we discovered that they were vampires because we saw them bite our assistant / deputy. Sheriff Wright, I saw you bringing in someone. You figure out what happened to the principal? I did. It was Liam Battelle at the direction of Charlotte Battelle. You have to be kidding. Why in the world would Liam Battelle hurt Principal Vincent? I don't know. Maybe because they're vampires. It's supposed to be a distraction and turn me against August Flynn again. You weren't always against August Flynn? He was helping me with the Jessica Murdoch situation. Besides, you were the one that told me to free him. I said to let him go, not deputize him. Ah, well, that's pretty far down on my list of concerns right now since you brought Liam Battelle in. I assume he came willingly. You don't think I could have apprehended him myself? Not really. We have to bring in Julian and Charlotte too. They forced him to commit the murder. I suspect I'm going to need some help with that. You're right about that. Maddie and I need some support. You know the town better than I do. Who can we trust to deputize for this? I'm not going to endanger anyone like that. You want to go and get yourself hurt? God damn it. I swear, I'm not yawning until I sit down and start trying to stream, and then I can't stop yawning. It drives me nuts. You want to go and get yourself hurt trying to arrest the Battelles? You go right ahead. I won't like that I have to find another sheriff, but I'll do it. You're really just going to let them get away with murder? It's not like I have a choice. We can run the supply train by ourselves. Train's not my only concern. We've lost enough people in this town. When we go up against the Battelles, they might slaughter us all. We got an achievement. I wonder if my hangman had a T in it. That's more reason to bring them in, if they're that dangerous. Do you hear what I'm saying? You can't stand up to them, not right now. So they just get to run around wild and kill whomever they want. I don't like it, but we have to survive. They're not just our benefactors, Sheriff Wright, they're also our potential destroyers. This severely compromises my ability to keep the peace in this town. I hate to tell you this, Sheriff, but the Battelles are the peace in the town. They're the real power here, not you, not me. The town is run by vampires, and you're just okay with that. There's nothing we can do, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to go home for the day. Good idea, you need a break. Be back tomorrow, right? We'll see. Stupid man. I'll try and hydrate. It's hot and I can't reach it. I just made it like 20 minutes ago. I'm stuck. I wish this game would voice itself. Ugh, right. Actually, no, it's just about ready to drink. Today's tea is Terry's tea, which is modelled after Terry's chocolate orange. So I've got an orangey taste with a chocolatey aftertaste. It's quite clever. Guessing it's got chicory in. Possibly cocoa beans. Yes, I'm still working my way through my tea cupboard, checking that all of the teas that I've got in there I like and will drink. I'm putting some of them out so I actually do drink them. Yeah, it's not bad. This is not going to stop me yawning though. As I'm leaving the station, Maddie hurries up to me.
What are you doing?
I'm headed home. Did you learn anything new from Liam? No, nothing. He wants to go inside the towers. At this point, maybe I should let him try.
Huh?
Are you okay? Not really. What's going on? Ugh. No, Maddie, I've tried to keep this town together. I've tried to make things as normal as much as possible. This place is all we have anymore after all.
But
There are vampires now, and that's definitely not... Oh, God. I'm trying to do an American drawl, and it's not working. But there are vampires now, and that's definitely not normal. That's not the only problem. It's all just a lie. Nothing's normal. Nothing's been normal since last year. This place is hell.
hey,
This place is my home. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that
if
way.
only.
Of course you did, and I understand. Even though I grew up here, I never really felt like I belonged. You're from the city. This place probably would have been awful for you, even if you could leave. Now you're trapped here. Now we're all trapped here, in a town ruled by a family full of vampires, and no one can stand up to them. See, it's fine when I can pick my own voices and I don't have to do accents I can't do, but when they partially voice the characters, and I have to fill in the gaps, you end up with me butchering several attempts at American accents.
Look,
That's not true. You stood up to them today. You solved Terry's murder and brought in Liam Battelle. It's not enough.
maybe.
Maybe I should come home with you. Seems like you could use the company. I'm fine, and I have a roommate.
This is all so much.
Well, that's for my sake then. I'd rather not be home alone after. Oh, right. In that case, sure. Thanks. Let's just go back to your place then. She was attacked by a vampire. You framed it as a drug habit, which is just not right. Hey, Erica, there's something on your doorstep. Looks like the mail. I wonder if the Battelles are suing me. We don't have a courthouse. I don't think that would stop them. They'd be the judge, jury, and... Are you sure you're okay? No. Let's just see what it says. I reached for the letter wedged underneath Stacy's welcome mat. On second thought, this wasn't delivered via the mail. I've told Fred to use the mailboxes 100 times. I know he takes shortcuts, but putting a letter down on the ground like this would actually be more work for him. As soon as I touch the letter, I feel a chill on my skin. Something's not right. Something's not right. That's what you keep on saying. No, there's something strange about this letter.
Sounds bad.
Well, open it. My hands tremble as I break the seal, I think. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I know exactly what it is. I've been expecting it. Dear Erica Wright, you have been chosen by the Battelle Repatriation Society. You have been selected to venture into the world outside the towers. We are sorry that this invitation has taken so long to reach you. We know that you have wanted to leave since the day you arrived. We needed to make the proper preparations. We needed to be sure that the process works. Now we have formulated a way to repatriate you to the world outside. However, some of these steps will require action to be taken within the town, which is something we cannot effectuate. You will need to take these tasks upon yourselves. You will also need to choose a companion. We can let you leave, but we cannot let only you leave. Only two We pass through the towers at once. When you are ready, write the name of your chosen companion on the line at the bottom of this letter and deliver it to the train station. Secure it beneath the stairs to the main platform where an agent will retrieve it. Meanwhile, do not tell anyone but your chosen companion about this letter or our society. If you do, we must rescind our offer. Sincerely, from the Battail Repatriation Society. She's not going to leave now, though. She can't leave all those innocent people. What is it? Don't pretend you're not reading it over my shoulder.
About that.
Do you think it's real? Of course it's not real. Of course you can't just leave Battail.
I don't know about that.
What about Jessica and Gary? Jessica and Gary are dead. You don't know that. I guess I don't know much of anything.
What now?
So are you gonna do it? Are you gonna respond to them? This is such exploitative bullshit. They're taking what everyone is hoping for, a way out, and mining it for... I still don't know what they want. I don't know what they're up to, but there has to be some kind of catch. You monsters. They're worse than the Battail family.
Hey!
Hold up there. Better just kill someone here, drain them of their blood without them ever knowing. That's better than this false blipping hope of freedom that could only end one way. Somewhere out there, Jessica and Gary's brains are splattered across the ground because they believe some bullshit like this. You still haven't answered my question. Are you going to go through with it? Of course I am. Even though... After all, someone has to bring them down, right? Even if I can't stop the Battails, I can stop these bleepers. At least I can do that.
Maybe.
What if the Battails are behind this too? Then at
Erica?
least, you're definitely not okay. The letter says you need to name a companion.
Let's do this together.
Just so you know, I'll go with you. After all, the letter says you can't tell anyone but your companion, and I already know. You'll keep this to yourself, won't you? Well, yeah, but we won't be going anywhere. We'll be tracking down the scammers who sent this letter and putting them in jail. That jail's going to get mighty full. In that case, I'll help you put the scammers in jail. You want me to? I don't know. Crumple the letter in my hand, just hard enough to make a point, but not hard enough to damage it.
I don't understand.
Is there someone else you'd rather do this with? I told you, I don't know. I don't even know why I want to do this. Do you want to find the Battail Repatriation Society, or do you want to leave Battail? You can't leave Battail, you can only die. Once again, you didn't answer my question. I'm sorry, Maddie. I need some time alone. I need to think.
Fine.
If we need to talk, I need to act. I just don't know what that means. You know where to find me. She offers me a hug. Can't bring myself to turn her down. She pulls me close and brings her mouth to my ear.
Erica?
And just don't quit on me, okay, Sheriff Wright? Erica? I don't respond. She gives me a sad look and turns away. I turn my attention to the letter. I stare at the blank line at the end of the paper. I know I have no choice but to do this, but who do I want to bring with me, other than Maddie? August? He's helped me with Jessica's case so far, and I'm sure he'd be intrigued. Maybe Liam. He wants to make up for what he's done, and this might be the way. I try not to think about the fact that my options are a serial killer and a vampire. Instead, I go inside and collapse on the couch. I'm not sure if I can sleep, but I need to stop thinking for a little while. I'm horrified to see a small mob of townsfolk waiting for me outside the precinct. I recognise the Murdochs, the Reeds, and some teachers from the high school. Once I cross the street, they swarm around me. Sheriff, is it true? Did you arrest Liam Battail? Is he the... I can hardly stand to look in their frantic eyes. I don't want to tell them the truth, but how can I avoid it any longer? It's not like I can call a press conference. I'll have to tell them eventually, one way or another. Yes, Liam Battail killed Terry Vincent. Cries of dismay ripple through the group. It can't be true. The Battail family wouldn't do something like that. Especially Liam. He's such a sweetheart. He confessed. This ain't right. Someone must have put him up to it. I don't know. I've always thought something was fishy about that Liam fella. Now, there's proof. Shut up, Steve. I don't believe it. Must have been that filthy hatbreaker. Is he in there too? Where's August Flynn? Before I can reply, I noticed that young man has already broken away from the group and is storming towards the entrance of City Hall. I exchanged confused glances with Mrs. Murdoch. That's Terry's younger brother, Caleb Vincent. My heart twisted into a knot. I didn't even realise Principal Vincent had a brother in town. Everything happened too fast yesterday. Caleb, stop! He doesn't listen. He's already at the doors, shaking them furiously. I'm relieved they're still locked. This can only be because Mr. Mayor Ward hasn't arrived yet. Let me in, Sheriff Wright. I want to look him in the eyes. I want to ask him if he killed my sister. The ferocity of his voice chills me to the bone. I can't let him in there. I shouldn't let any of them inside. Listen, all of you, justice will be served, I assure you, but not now, not yet. You trying to put him on trial or something? Mayor Ward will discuss the next steps. Until then, next steps? I'll tell you the next steps. An eye for an eye, a life for a life, simple as that. I'm struggling to think of a comeback when I feel something tugging at my hip. I turn in shock to see Caleb's hands around the handle of my gun. Panic rushes through me by wildfire. I don't think, I just act. I wrest the gun away from him and point into the air, and as the crack of the gunshot fades away, an eerie silence seeps into its place. I struggle to find my voice. Vernon was right about one thing. We don't yet know the whole story. Terry's killer is behind bars. For now, that's what matters. Oh, hang on. Can I go back? I accidentally went into auto mode. Roll back, LT. Oh, I can't. Okay, fine. Well, whatever it said, I'm sure you saw it. I don't give them time to respond. As I hit X instead of A, and then it just went into auto. Silly me, anyway. Terry's killers is behind bars. That's all that matters. Don't give them time to respond. While they remain stupefied by the gunshot, I unlock the doors of City Hall and step inside. Then I lock the doors behind me. Take a moment to catch my breath. My heart won't stop pounding like it wants to flee my body. I don't think my half-assed speech will keep their anger at bay for long, but I don't even want to deal with that right now. I still have a letter tucked in my jacket, whispering sweet lies of escape. I mean, anything's possible at this point. There are vampires. There could be a way out. Liam's movements are eerily fast as he gets up to see me. His hands fidget with his clothes. The air around him seems to crackle with energy. But despite his energy, there are bags under his eyes. An unsettling desperation gleams from his eyes. Good morning, Erica. Good morning, Liam. Are you hungry? He winces and turns around. Very. I mean, you know, I can fix some eggs and bacon. Maybe I could try some bacon. Raw, please. Oh, right. Well, less work for me. As it so happens, I don't have much of an appetite anyway. I throw some bacon on a plate and bring it back to Liam. Here you go. Thanks. He takes the plate and fingers the bacon, but he doesn't eat it yet. Did I hear a gunshot outside? Yes. Some people were outside yelling for your head. I fired into the air to disperse them. Horror pulls at his face, but I can't bring myself to feel pity right now. I walk away to fix myself a cup of coffee. A few moments later, I hear him coughing and spluttering. He yells and throws the plate against the wall. Hey! You broke the plate! That's just a fucking plate. I don't have many plates left. And where do you think I'm going to get another one? Plates haven't arrived on the train. 2 months. They're sold out at the dollar store, and the handcrafted plates from Nancy cost a fortune. But I guess you wouldn't know that. First of all, you're filthy rich, and second of all, you probably don't eat off plates anyway.
I never meant to.
I'm sorry, it's just... How many people were out there? Who were they? About 9. Mrs. Murdoch, Mr. Reed, and Terry had a brother, apparently. His name's Caleb. Liam sags backwards, his eyes splintering with tears. They want justice, and I can't say I blame them.
What am I supposed to do now?
Maybe you should just let them in. Let them hurt me. I deserve it. He sounds sincere, but as much as I want to see him punished for what he did, I'm disturbed by the utter despair in his voice. How exactly do you see that panning out? First of all, can you be killed? Or would your wounds just heal miraculously? I don't know, but I do heal quickly. Secondly, what if you decided to fight back? How many people could you take down in an effort to defend yourself? And thirdly, am I one with any bloody decency left in this town? There used to be something called law and order. We don't just let people barge into a prison and beat someone up so they can feel better. I kick the trash can next to my desk, spilling paper onto the floor. Pained silence follows my outburst until finally Liam leans over the smashed plate, picks up a piece of bacon, forces it into his mouth and swallows. After a moment he gags and retches horribly, but he manages to keep it down. He reaches down and picks up another piece. What are you doing? Trying to eat this bacon. Okay, but why? The more we eat human food, the more we get used to it. We go a long time without drinking blood, we become more human. What do you mean by more human? The sun bothers us less, we start to lose our strength and influence over humans. Beyond that, I don't know. The longest I ever managed to go was a month. He gags a little, then puts the next piece of bacon back down. Do you think you could have gone longer? I don't know. The next time I fed, I lost control. I hadn't been interrupted. But that won't happen next time. There won't be a next time. I'll do better. I have to. He stuffed another piece of bacon into his mouth. I watch him struggle to eat with a mixture of disgust and admiration. I know I should only see the monster who killed Principal Vincent. But right now I also see a man willing to sacrifice himself to right his own wrongs. What am I going to do with him? The town won't be satisfied if I keep him behind bars, and honestly, I don't want to become his permanent babysitter. The letter in my jacket feels like it's burning against my skin. I'm not supposed to tell anyone else, so I'll just feel out Liam's stance on the issue. Liam, how do you feel about the Battail Repatriation Society?
Say what?
The one that freed Jessica and Gary? Supposedly, yes. Who knows, if they really managed to get two people out of Battail, then I want to meet them and ask them what the blip's going on. I think it's a lie. I still think Jessica and Gary are dead, and this BRS nonsense is just a BS cover-up. BS, nice one. So are you going to search for this BS society? Yes, and it happens I have a good lead. He smiles weakly.
Sheriff Wright.
I always knew you were a good sheriff, Erica. I fight a flush of warmth spreading to my cheeks. Anyway, if I go after them, I'll need a partner. A partner? That's right. I'd like to retrace some of the steps Jessica and Gary took before they disappeared. And the cabin near the perimeter where Jessica and Gary stayed briefly. When I searched it, I found a letter from the BRS about a process they followed before leaving. Wait, you did? Maybe, although I still think Maddie might have planted that letter. In which case, Julian's probably part of this whole charade. Liam looks sick again. Do you know anything about that, Liam?
This doesn't feel right.
Not really. I do know that Julian fed on Maddie a few times. That's all I know, honestly. This casual mention of Julian feeding on Maddie makes bile rise to my throat. I swallow it back. You really know nothing of BRS. No. I'll be honest. It's possible Julian and Charlotte are behind it. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. But it might be real, too. I mean, someone made those towers, didn't they? Someone sends us that train every week. The BRS is real. Julian and Charlotte would probably oppose it. They don't want people to leave. They like having this little bubble of food in their control. My hands clench into fists.
I'm hurt, too.
I've always opposed them on that, by the way. I just want to get out. You asked me, the BRS might be our best chance. If you'll have me, Erica, then I would love to help you, and I know that I could. The BRS is a trick. I should be able to figure it out before it's too late. I know more about the towers than anyone. Whenever I asked you about the towers, you didn't know a damn thing. Well, I don't know anything useful to the average layman, but I've studied them, and I have some theories. Theories I haven't been able to explore because Julian and Charlotte wouldn't let me. Maybe if we work together. Can it be true? Can you really have some useful theories about the towers? I shake my head fiercely. Let me be clear. I don't think anyone can escape. I only want to bring down the BRS, but if you have knowledge that can help me do that... I shake my head again. I remember Terry's heartless body spread out across the gymnasium floor. He seems to sense my thoughts. He hangs his head wearily.
Please.
I'll redeem myself in any way I can. If there's anything I can do to help you win this fight, Erica, I want to do it. I never asked for this power, but I have it and I can help you. I'll protect you from the monsters. You help me get inside these towers. I sigh and tuck the letter away again. I'll have to give it some thought. I wait as long as I can to leave the precinct, checking the view from every window until I'm sure there's not another mob. I know that Mayor Ward came in at some point and exchanged words with them. Right now I don't care what he said as long as it calmed them down. Somehow, one person managed to stay hidden when I check the windows, and I see him as soon as I step out the
Erica?
window. Good morning, Erica. Everything in my body tells me to draw my gun, but I doubt that will do me any good unless I shoot while I still have the element of surprise. As much as I'm tempted to shoot Julian for what he did to Maddie, I'm also curious what he came in to say. I noticed that Julian's hat and gloves protect him from any direct sunlight. Even so. Isn't it a little too sunny out here for you? Yes, it's unpleasant, but I wanted you to know that I meant no harm. Whether you mean harm or not, you're a vampire. You bring it wherever you go. Julian flinches like I slapped him.
Think this through.
Very well. You know I need blood to survive. Beyond that, you know very little. And I prefer that you not made gross assumptions. Then let's sit down and have a long talk about what it means to be a vampire. I have plenty of questions. This isn't important right now. I don't care where you came, and it is absolutely important. How many people in this town have died to quench your thirst?
I beg to differ.
Another assumption. No one must die for us to drink our fill. Well, that's some good news if it's true, but I doubt it. You said us, so how many of you are there? Just my family, just the three of us. Just my family, just the three of us. I'm not sure I believe him, but it's a start. I'll rephrase my last question then. How many people has your family killed, whether you needed to or not?
I'm sorry.
I can't speak for everyone. As for me, I've only killed one person. It was an accident. Her name was Brittany. You never knew her. As I said, it was an accident and will never happen again. He waits and I study him, as well as I can under the shade of his hat. Again, I don't know whether he's telling the truth. I only know that he's sweet. He knew I wouldn't believe him if he'd said he killed no one. Better to give me something than nothing. One murder is too much. One murder should put you in jail.
In any case.
I understand the sentiment, but in our current situation, that's simply not practical. For example, you shouldn't have arrested Liam. You saw how the town reacted. It would be very difficult to repair my family's reputation. I don't give a shit about your family's reputation.
That would be a mistake.
You should. We maintain order in Batea whether you like it or not. We are their last standing semblance of authority. Besides, if I went to jail or lost my influence, what would happen to the train? Maybe you could explain how the train operates to someone else. Like me. It's not going to happen. Please, Erica, stop daydreaming and listen to me. I'm not sure what Liam has told you, but I'm sure it's a lie. We had a fight with him a couple of nights ago. He had a furious temper tantrum. I don't know if Liam killed Terry Vincent, but it's possible. With his mood so hot like that night, he might have gone into a frenzy, and then tried to cover it up with what he knew about the Heartbreaker. A frenzy? Can you elaborate? Don't be daft, you know what I mean. I can tell the sunlight is wearing on his body impatience. His posture sags and he seems paler than usual. Perhaps it's also wearing down his mask. You said we had a fight with him. Who else? Charlotte, of course. I remember what August said about Julian and Charlotte's relationship. Despite myself, I feel heat flush my cheeks. Do you and Charlotte often team up together against Liam? What do you mean? You give him the same look he gave me a moment ago. I think you know what I mean.
I
don't know, I suppose, not intentionally. What did you fight about? It's not your concern. It is if you want me to believe you. Fine, we fought about a mechanism on one of the towers. Liam wanted to repair it, we said no. I reel for a moment. Were they really arguing about the towers? And if that's true, I see a slight flash of satisfaction in Julian's eyes. And I remember how smart he is. I can't let this derail me. Liam wouldn't want to repair the towers. He hates them as much as I do.
Of course.
His true objective would be to get inside, figure out how they operate. He'd probably get himself killed, as do anyone else who tries to study the towers too closely. Don't you agree, Erica? He knows I do. Trumped again. A frustrated silence hangs between us.
In any case.
The fact reminds me of my true purpose this morning. To tell you we share a common enemy. The Potato Repatriation Society. Whatever this BRS truly is needs to be stopped. Either it is luring people to their deaths with false information, or it actually knows how to escape Potato, and that information should not be private. Are we agreed? I continue to study Julian long and hard. If this is another lie, then I want to see where it leads. I might have a lead on the Potato Repatriation Society, but I'll need a partner in order to pursue it. I see. Very interesting. Listen, Erica, I know you're still reading from your recent discoveries, but you and I are on the same side. I want to maintain peace and order in Potato as you do. The BRS disrupts that, so I can help you take them down. How does Charlotte feel about the BRS? She seems awfully happy to read that letter from the train to the whole town and then hide it from me so I couldn't investigate. Oh. The letter from Jessica and Gary. She felt the town deserved to know what the letter said, nothing more. You keep bullshitting me, then you can bleep off Justin Tail.
We'll figure something out.
Charlotte is Charlotte. What can I say? She's impulsive. I'm not. Will you keep Charlotte from getting in my way? Of course. Then tell her to give me the letter from the train. Can't do that. It's gone. Gone? Yes, I think she lost it. More bullshit.
Relax.
Erica, stop fixating on the letter. Stop fixating on the letter. You have a new lead. Don't you? Let's focus on that. If you choose me as your partner, I will help you stop the BRS, I swear it. I study those red eyes of his as long as I can bear. And I remind myself it doesn't matter. I can't trust him, not completely. But what if he's telling the truth about this? What if he's telling the truth about stopping the BRS? And even if he's lying, what if this is my best chance to learn more about his family? I need to think about it.
Of course.
Meanwhile, please be very wary about Boundin. I love my brother and he's a good man, but he's also moody, and I think that's why he lost control of me. I'll keep that in mind. Good. Then I'll be on my way. Are you sure? You might faint if he stands here another minute. Maybe we could bet on it. He grimaces, and I think I catch a glimmer of his fangs. I didn't know you had such a dazzling sense of humour, Erica. If you choose to join forces, then you know where to find me. Finally, I make my way to August's house. He's helped me already on the case. It seems wrong to not consider his help with the letter, but even so. Can I really commit to him as a partner? He's a murderer, I'm sure of it, no matter what his denials. But still, he's the only one in Battelle I know who isn't beholden to the vampires controlling the town. He's an outsider. We're the only two outsiders, so I at least have to consider it. Very hesitantly, I knock on the door. I halfway expect him to be drunk and belligerent again, so I prepare myself. Ooh. Much to my surprise, he seems to have pulled himself together.
Hello there.
Erica, what brings you here? Someone framed me for another murder? Okay, so I've got all the achievements but the complete it. But I'm not even halfway through the story. False sense of completionism. Nice tea. Oh, I'm very tired. Just gonna have. I think. Alright. Just gonna have a quick break here. And I'll be back in a few minutes. Who predicts a riot? Right. I was just getting a couple of glasses of water and taking my lenses out because I was feeling so very sleepy, and it was like, okay, maybe it's because I'm dehydrated. So that's better. Okay. So now, hopefully we can get on with the story without me falling asleep. Because it's like, it's not even 4. There's no way I should be falling asleep. It's ridiculous. Hi, Mr. Corners, and also hi, Jessie. Sorry, I didn't actually say hi, Jessie. I meant to say hi, Jessie. So, yes, Erica, what brings you here? Has someone framed me for another murder? Please don't make me regret this. Regret what? I have a lead on the Battail Repatriation Society, but before I do anything about it, I need to find a partner. Put simply, to retrace the steps Jessica and Gary took before they disappeared. Reenact the steps. He studies me quietly. He continues to stare at me for much longer than socially appropriate. Until finally...
Eric.
So you believe there's a way out? No, I still think Jessica and Gary are dead. But the RS is probably a scam. So you want to get yourself killed? No, I want to make those bastards pay for what they did to Jessica and Gary, and even more, I want to punish them for spreading false hope.
Are you sure?
I understand your interest in the society. I'm intrigued myself. But you should proceed with caution. Either they killed Jessica and Gary, and then covered it up quite well, or they actually know how to get people out of Battail. I have cat lateral, yes, Jessie. In which case, I'd love to chat with them myself. But I'd also secure backup. I know, that's why I'm here. Yes. I played the demo. In the Summer of Games. Didn't have any motion sickness that I remember. So hopefully I'll be okay. But thanks for the heads up. As to the source of this society, I see 3 distinct possibilities. First, the Battail family are playing games with the people of this town. I don't know their purpose, but I suspect it relates to their rather unusual nature. Oh, I see. Do you have to upgrade the speed? Is that something that could be avoided? Okay, so I could do everything and then upgrade if... okay. Can you downgrade if you upgrade too soon? Okay, I mean, I can always just play it in small blitz. You know, if there's an issue. Yeah, Mask of Mists, because that one was way too fast and gave me motion sickness. Manifold wasn't too bad. I know, but I know that gave you issues. But Mask of Mists made me so nauseous. I did an hour and I was like, oh, this is the limit on my playtime. Just really frustrating because it could have been really good if it had just slowed it down. Oh, you're wondering whether it's related to vision. Interesting. Interesting thought. Very interesting, because I mean my vision's crappy, obviously. That's odd because motion sickness for me, I think, is an inner ear. I think it's mostly an inner ear thing. Possibly, I don't know. It could be vision related. Never really explored it. I've just tried to avoid it. The fact that they are vampires. Yeah, it could be. It could be. I mean, obviously that's a shame if it is and affects your gaming. Bendy and the Ink Machine, I could barely play. I don't know whether that was related. It'd be interesting to see, like Bendy and Mask of Mists, whether you're affected by that now. You wouldn't have been before. Hopefully. And I mean, you know, if it's a case of playing in small doses and it's fine, then, you know, you just have to try and limit yourself where it's a problem. And, you know, hopefully more devs will take better precautions in games so that it reduces motion sickness, especially as we're moving into VR and stuff. Don't really fancy throwing up. But yeah. Anyway, appreciate the heads up. I was mostly just having fun being a cat and destroying shit. It was hilarious. The fact that they are vampires.
Well,
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that one. The second possibility is that there is another power at play here. Perhaps it is the power that controls the towers, or the power that controls whatever the towers are protecting us from. That's a lot of speculation. What if there's a way out, though? We don't want to believe there is a way out of this town, but the circumstances that trap us are rather fantastical. Who is to say there is isn't another set of fantastical circumstances that can free us? I mean, indeed. You want to find out, don't you? What's the third possibility?
reductio ad absurdum.
That you, or I, or both of us have lost our minds. What? That's an idea that's been stirring in the back of my head for some time. How could all of this be real? This contingency, whatever it is, does not fit with everything I knew about the world before. Perhaps the simple answer is that I have suffered some kind of psychotic break. What about me? Once we have started journeying down this road, all manner of paths become open to us. Perhaps you are a figment of my madness. Perhaps you are mad and I am a figment of yours. The rules as we understand them no longer apply, so we must consider the worst. What good does that do us?
Hope is evil.
You are a law enforcement officer, Erica. Are you saying the truth doesn't matter to you? Please, just ignore me. You do realize this third horrific possibility changes nothing, don't you? Even before the contingency, we could never be sure of what was real and what was merely our own perception. It's always best to move forward as if our experiences were surely real. The same goes for right now. The same goes for whatever lead you've discovered. What are you saying? You need a partner, right? I'm the best candidate. Oh, really? A serial killer is my best option as a partner? I don't think so.
Hey.
You still doubt me? I didn't kill Principal Vincent. Liam confessed. Yes, and I wouldn't have caught him without your help, but you knew more about the Heartbreaker than you should have. I'm a good study. How long are you going to keep denying it? For as long as you need me to. I look at him with surprise, with a knowing smile on his face, one that gives me goosebumps and makes my heart race all at the same time. You live in your own state of denial, Erica. You cling to law and order like a log in a raging river. You think the log will keep you connected to the shore. You refuse to accept that the shore is gone. You're floating in an endless raging sea now. I want to mock him for making a useless metaphor, but for some reason I can't. His eyes are locked onto mine with an intensity that renders me speechless. In truth, I'm glad you cling to your little log. What power is there in a storm if the world is made of water? I finally manage a meagre reply. You're not making any sense.
I need this.
I need you, Erica. I need your stubborn denial to measure the present against the past. But you need me even more. You need someone who can stay afloat in the current once you lose your little lifeboat. You know it as well as I do. That's why you came to me about this opportunity. I'm considering other people as my partner. I just wanted your opinion.
What?
Is that true? I hear a new edge to his voice. One of anger, panic.
Wake up!
How can I possibly prove myself to you? I helped you with your missing persons case, a case we both agree isn't closed yet. I helped you find Principal Vincent's killer, and I've been a perfectly good member of society ever since my release. That doesn't make up for your past crimes. I'm smarter than anyone else in this town, but you and maybe the Tales, if I'm giving you all the benefit of the doubt. Whatever I did or didn't do in the past, I'm not a fucking vampire.
Please.
Don't toy with me on this, Erica. I want to join you on this mission. You want to leave? Thanks, to. Not necessarily. I just want to find the dungeon master and give them a taste of their own medicine. Isn't that what you want too? So what are you afraid of? I must have let my guard down because I suddenly feel his hand around my neck, and I'm not sure when it got there. By the time I move to react, his hand has moved up to my jaw to rest on my cheek. He continues to lean close to me, eyes glowing.
Erica.
I don't think you're afraid of getting hurt, not physically at least. Your fear is much deeper than that. You're afraid you might actually start listening to what I have to say. Even worse, you're afraid you might enjoy listening to me speak. August, that's enough. August can hear how serious I am because he's dropped his hand and Judy steps back. But my mind keeps reeling. And both of us stand in silence for a moment, but my thoughts rage in turmoil. I don't know how much of what he said is true. I don't know how I felt about being so close to him. So you'll keep thinking about it? He's looking away now, almost shy. He knows he almost went too far. He must really want to be my partner. Yes, I'll think about it. Good. Can I do anything else to help you decide, or anything else to help you in general? Maybe I could... You've done enough, August. I turn to
Wait.
go. When can I expect to hear from you? Once I feel like talking to you again. How are you doing, Stu? I'm not sure what else to say. I force my feet across the threshold and close the door between us. Aha! Chapter 6. We need to at least finish chapter 7 today to finish it all next week if there are 10 chapters. An excerpt from the journal of Jason and Ruth. Patale Police. A new chapter begins, indeed. October 4th. I don't cry. I wish they'd stop talking about how I cried. I won't see my mother again. I won't see my father again. I won't see my sister again unless this works, and I doubt this will work. What was I supposed to do? How strong could I be in the face of all of this? Can't I break just once? Can't I have that? I didn't cry. I sobbed. There's a difference. October 7. We have the explosives, we have the vehicles, and I'm so ready to get out of this bullshit town. I wish I felt good about this, but we're not thinking this through. We've seen what happens when people challenge the towers. The woman from the feds tells us we're being stupid, and I'm afraid she's right. I want to stop them. I want to stand up and tell them they're making a mistake. They won't listen to me. Even now, they call me a pussy. They call me a queer. Oh, they sound delightful. All because I felt something when we were cut off from the rest of the world. They sound like dickheads. I'm sorry that it hurt. I'm sorry I couldn't contain it. Not because my tears were wrong, but because those tears forced foolish doubt into the minds of the people whose trust I need. Now we're charging headlong into disaster, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. May God have mercy on our souls. Back home, I go into my room with the BRS letter and close the door. I suppose I can't put it off any longer. It's time for me to choose a partner. Just gonna do a double save. Hopefully that will remind me that this is actually the big choice if I wanted to come back and choose a different partner. All of my other saves have very much been minor choices, I feel. August, Maddie, Julian, Liam. What does chat think? August, potential serial killer. Thinks highly of himself. Psychopath, psychologist, philosopher. Maddie doesn't want to be a victim anymore. Hasn't committed any crimes. Recovered from a drug addiction, which is pretty damn strong. He's being gaslit by vampires. Wants to feel purpose. Julian, an actual vampire, says he's only killed one person, but I don't believe him. Was gaslighting Maddie and feeding off her, and also hypnotized her into cleaning up a crime scene for him. Possibly. Or maybe that was Charlotte. Clever. Well, thinks he's clever. But also very dangerous. Liam. I don't think he wants to be a vampire. Doesn't know how he is a vampire. Doesn't know what's happening. Wants to know what's happening. Engineer. Might be useful. Wants to figure out how the towers work and if he can disable them. But he's a vampire and he killed someone. Trying to frame August. Okay, I was doing a really nice summary of everyone. Everyone's just going August. Everyone wants me to partner up with the psychopathic serial killer. You get 2 votes for August in the channel. I'm hoping that the fact Maddie knows about the letter won't count against me if I pick someone else, you see. Dan is an agent of chaos. I mean, alleged serial killer, but... No vampires! But you'd pick the serial killer over the perfectly normal human being woman that has something that, you know, wants to get justice and has something to prove. Every time I hit August, all I can think of is the shape-shifting detective in Pearl Monroe. Because that's set in August. The town. That amuses me. Yeah. She came clean to me, you know. She used to be a drug addict, but, you know, she went to rehab, she cleaned herself up, and, you know, everyone has moments of weakness. It's how you deal with them, and, you know, she's proven herself. But chat is saying serial killer. No vampires, okay. It was surprising that Julian was, like, opposed to the BRS. He could be acting. He could be an extremely good actor. He could be just telling me what I want to hear, and he's just trying to put me off the trail. I wouldn't pick Julian, I have to say. Liam is a victim, but he's a dangerous victim, and he's also a killer. I think Maddie's the only one that's not killed anyone. She only harmed herself. But she has been influenced by a vampire. And she is part of this town. August is an outsider, like I am. We got trapped here. Well, I'm happy for chat to make the decision. I have no preference, really. Just want to get some answers and get an ending. And then I'm going to look up all of the alternate theories and find out, you know, what the big story is. Because I don't think I see myself playing this through sort of four more times. Because there's a new game plus. I don't know what that adds. Okay, we'll pick the serial killer. Chat has spoken. Maddie's gonna hate us. I almost don't believe what I'm doing as I write down August's name on the letter. It's almost like I'm being controlled by everyone. Influenced somehow. Is this really the person I want to help me solve the mystery? The unfortunate truth is that out of all my choices, he's the only one who hasn't tried to obstruct me in any way. Julian manipulated Maddie into cleaning up the cabin. Sure, she was entranced by him, but that doesn't change what she did. Liam killed Principal Vincent, not August. There's no getting around that fact. Yeah, I mean, there's various games that take advantage of that fact or comment on that fact. And I always like it when they do, sort of breaking the wall a little bit. There was one that, yeah, basically, you know, I was like, I didn't do this. I'm not doing this. I'm not in control of my actions. And it was funny because obviously they weren't. I was. So I do like that sort of weird meta. It's interesting. But yes. Liam killed Principal Vincent, not August. There's no getting around that fact. That leaves me with August, a man I'm 99% certain is a serial killer, the only other true outsider in Battail. At least I can see that his desire to solve this case is certainly real. I fold up the letter and head downstairs to where Maddie is waiting for me. She's pacing back and forth, barely able to hold still.
Erica?
Okay, Erica, who did you pick? You're not going to believe this, but I picked August. She's quiet for a moment, clearly
I
disappointed.
guess.
I get it. He's definitely smart. I'm sorry, Maddie. I know you wanted to do this with me. No, maybe you're right. You already have my help, so if you don't give August a little preferential treatment, he might lash out. He might decide to start cooperating. He's volatile like that. It makes the most logical sense to pick him, and he probably bleeping knows it, doesn't he? I'm sure he'll pretend that he knew this would happen all along. You still want to help even if I didn't pick you?
Right.
We still have 2 missing people and a lot of questions. I feel a pang of regret. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Maddie is the one most dedicated to the cause. It's too late to turn back now. It is not. I have 2 save games, just in case. With every passing minute since jotting down his name on a letter, I've grown more and more convinced that I'll need his unique thinking to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to drop this off at the pickup location and tell August.
Ugh.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled. There's the smallest bit of venom in Maddie's voice, but I don't blame her for it. At least she's involved. After I drop off the letter, I stop by August's house. When he answers the door, I can see the eagerness on his face. He's like a puppy. A really deadly puppy. He's trying to play it cool, but it's obvious just how much he wants this.
Erica.
So, Erica, have you made your decision? Yes, I have. I chose you as my partner. It's really annoying, because I've had like an entire chapter and a bit, and no voices, aside from the comments. It's like, did I pick the wrong, way through the story that this isn't voiced? Or, like, how does it decide which bits are voiced? And I have a fingerprint right in the middle of my eye. Which just keeps on reflecting, because I've got lights shown on me. There we go. You've had the same thought about Octopath at times. Sorry, I was sort of very vaguely mumbling to myself. Octopath, what? You've made save games so that you can potentially go back for decisions? Oh, voice acting. Right, sorry. It's partially voiced, this game, which means that some stuff is voiced. Sometimes the characters are voiced, and a lot of the time they're not. The only really annoying part of it is that it's not consistent, and that I have to then try and imitate the voices, which I can't do. So, it's really weird. That's like, I mean, I get it, it's expensive, but it just seems to be really arbitrary what is picked to be voiced and not. We had an entire character voiced at the beginning of the game who got his head exploded within, like, the first 10 minutes, so it's really weird. Anyway, yes, I have. I chose you as my partner. His face lights up for the briefest of moments before he immediately regains his composure.
My friend.
Of course you did. You knew that you would need someone with my experience and knowledge to solve such an esoteric problem. Your experience? Do you have any experience at all with police investigations other than avoiding them?
Well...
Even if what you accuse me of is true, there's still more experience than anyone else in this town. Now, can you tell me about the lead that inspired this partnership? Right. The Battail Repatriation Society sent me a letter. They said if I picked a partner and continued to follow their instructions, I would be repatriated.
Oh?
Now that is exciting. Have you responded yet? Oh, I see. A cliche, is it? Aha, fair enough. I don't know. The character was a bit of a dick. I wanted to kick him in the balls, but, Yeah, I guess, it makes sense. It's just, I'd almost prefer that it wasn't voiced rather than partially voiced. It's just the partial voice when I do my own voices is hard. That's really where I was going with it. But hopefully at some point we'll get to a voice bit so I can have a bit of a rest. So I really want to find out what happens with the story, but I also kind of like my voice. Yes, I replied that I selected you, then dropped off my letter at the location they requested, the train station.
Marvelous.
That's excellent. It's official then. You can't take it back. That sounds ominous.
You have me all wrong.
Oh, I don't mean it in any threatening fashion. If I wanted to threaten you, I'd just get to the point. You know that. I just wanted to make sure we were inexorably tied up in this matter before I started giving it my full attention. Your full attention? What else have you been doing? If you must know, I've been writing a book. No, you haven't. I've had you in a cell in my office for the last 6 months. I haven't seen you write a single word.
If I'm being honest.
Leaving aside that you refused to give me a pen, yes, I only started it yesterday. Of course, I wouldn't dare tell you about any of this unless we were as intimately acquainted as we are now. We are not intimately acquainted. Of course we are. Our fates are bound together and cast in the arms of a mysterious organization that either killed or freed the last 2 souls to walk our path. Quite frankly, the vast majority of sexual partners in the United States are nowhere near as intimate as we are now. Please don't make me regret this.
But...
So, are you going to ask? Ask what? What the book is about? Of course I'm going to ask about the book. Fine, what is the book about? It's about the classic Disney film Aladdin. You're writing a book about Aladdin?
Absolutely.
Unlike most films for children, Aladdin explicitly centers on the classic conflict of the setting. You have the Sultan and the Princess, who represent the way almost all meaningful power is inherited through intergenerational transfer. And there is the villain, the Vizier, who is clearly a member of the professional managerial class and has decided that it is entirely unfair that such power is in the hands of a bumbling idiot. He's right, of course, but instead of realizing that the proletariats are his natural allies, he does what people like him always do. He exploits the labor of the proletariat rather than embrace them. His plan is turned on its head when the labourer he compelled to retrieve a magical lamp, which contains a magical force that is actually capable of transformative change, takes it for himself. Now, of course, with this force, this genie in hand, Aladdin in turn does not use it to overthrow the power structure, but simply to elevate himself inside of it.
Are you paying attention?
Yes, because I'm reading it! Yes, but I can't believe you're seriously interested in a kids' movie. What's going on here, August?
Well,
I take a look around. I see a TV VCR combo sitting on the counter. Aladdin is the one movie you've been able to scrounge up since getting out of jail, isn't it? I have been so terribly bored, Erica. Fortunately, I'm here to end that.
yes, yes.
The book is on hold now. You have my full attention. Good. In return, I must make the first of what are likely many requests. Now that we are in this together, I need to know everything. Everything? I've observed you for months. You are a very capable investigator, even though your skills have been wasted on trunks and bar fights in this miserable town. I suspect that you have selectively given me information and similarly selectively withheld information. Don't worry, I'm not upset. I'd be disappointed if you didn't follow such a rational and intelligent strategy of investigation. But now that needs to end. You put my name down on that letter, so I need the full case file. There's no case file. Don't you keep a brown notebook at the office? I've seen you write in it. That's a personal notebook, not a case file.
Perhaps.
I see. You are like me and you record everything in your memory palace. Oh god, it's bloody Sherlock. My memory palace? That method of Loki. You need to make more sense, not less. You remember everything you need to know. You don't need a case file because you have it all up here. He taps his head. I don't have a case file because from the very beginning people kept trying to obstruct me. Some of those people have easy access to City Hall and even my home. If I don't write something down, the Batails or the mayor can't snoop around to find it.
What?
The mayor? That's one of those details I never mentioned to you. He knows about the Batails. That they're vampires? Yes.
How interesting.
Honestly, that's the biggest detail you've been surprisingly quiet about. Care to elaborate a bit more? I know that they are not the pure stereotypical Dracula vampires, since I have seen them all in the sun. In the book, Dracula could walk around during the day. His face twitches with anger, but then settles into a surprisingly sincere smile. He doesn't like being corrected, but there might be something he likes when it's coming from me.
Do go on.
Nevertheless, I need to know everything. I fill him in on the investigation from start to finish. It's critiques as I go along, specifically with how much I trusted Liam. I can't say he was wrong. I let all of the Batails get under my skin, but he was the one I didn't notice until it was too late. By the time I'm done, we're in his room, where he sips some whiskey, then paces around for a while until finally...
How interesting.
This is a lot to take in, and I understood the periphery and borders of the situation already. Quite frankly, I'd normally say that this all points to the Batails keeping Jessica and Gary in a dungeon and using them as a steady supply of blood. It sounds like the clinic has that under control. Did you really just let the clinic constantly collect blood without asking questions? Well, I tried talking to Nurse Kathleen, but she denied it.
Is that so?
Has anyone in Bataille even needed a legitimate blood transfusion in the last 6 months? We don't have anyone else in town with medical training. It made enough sense to me.
I suppose.
I admit I would have questioned it for a moment, but I suppose you're right. There's no way to research precisely how much blood a town of 750 needs to keep on hand, and if she's the only authority, I'm not sure anyone could call her on it. Exactly. Leaping vampires. Why couldn't this have happened in a town with a decent library? Focus, August. After everything I've told you, what are your thoughts?
Life is irrational.
My thoughts? My thoughts are that the world has gone absolutely bleeping mad. I meant your thoughts on Jessica and Gary, the Tail Repatriation Society, and what we should do next. The simplest approach would be to wait. This BRS allegedly sent multiple letters to the two teenagers, giving them a set of instructions to carry out. We could just wait for the next letter. Ugh, there's no way you're suggesting we just wait for the next letter, not of everything you just heard. Of course I'm not suggesting we wait, Erica. Who do you think I am? There are proactive measures. I can say words. There are proactive measures we can take to root out exactly what is going on. We don't want to do what BRS says until we know who they are. Absolutely true, but that is not where we should start. Isn't it? Aren't they the ones who know what happened to Jessica and Gary?
Caterus paribus.
Yes. Maybe. But we need to look at this problem holistically. Please don't turn this into something about philosophy. The BRS is a mystery. We don't know who they are. They are not a hoax. They are operating outside the bounds of the towers, and thus the only person or organization able to communicate through them. But they are far from the only mystery. Quiz time, Erica! What? Really? List out all the other mysterious things happening in this town. Seriously?
Well,
Yes, seriously. Talking helps me think. Okay, well I guess I'll start with the towers. Huge metal towers that emerge from the ground that kill anyone who tries to pass them. On top of that, all communication with the outside world is gone. Phones don't work, television is down, internet is down, radios don't pick up any signals from outside. There's the BRS who act like they have a way through, but probably don't. I think vampires count here since they were purely fictional before the contingency, as far as you know. Come on, August. This is actually important. I'll explain later. Next, you have the creature that ran your transport off the road. I struggle to think whether to thank it for freeing me or damn it for trapping me here. City Hall went from a one-floor building to a large complex, and there's no way into the higher floors. Yes, I sure would like to know what's up there, but once again, we don't actually know if it transformed. What do you mean? Everyone said it changed.
Erica.
Everyone says it changed, exactly. But neither of us observed that earlier version of City Hall. Like I said about the vampires, this is critical. Finally, I guess there's the train. She hasn't mentioned Lucius Christ yet, either. I guess there's the train that brings us food. It seems completely automated and arrives every week with supplies. Good, but you missed one. I did.
Absolutely.
There we go. Lucius Christ. Yes, a very important one. The Lucian Church. Oh, I guess that is
What?
odd. That's odd? That's all you have to say? Oh,
But
most of the Christians in this town practice a skewed version of their religion with a different Bible, neither of which existed over a year ago. And they all swear it's always been their religion. Honestly, I didn't want to stick my nose in religion. I thought it might be a tail cult, and as long as they weren't halting anyone.
use your brain.
The other portion of people here say that the Lucian Church wasn't even a thing before the contingency. That's not worth investigating. Also, the fact that everyone calls it the contingency. It's not a crime. As the sheriff, I prioritize crimes. Crimes only exist within a judicial system designed to enforce them. Why are you so caught up in the Lucians?
Duh.
Because you're not, and because it's the first thing we should investigate. Really? They have nothing to do with Jessica or Gary or the BRS.
I believe.
You have to think holistically. Okay, even assuming all the mysteries are connected, why would we start with the churches?
Good question.
Well, there's no way to know if the BRS existed or if vampires were real or if the City Hall was really one building or another before the contingency happened. Everyone agrees that was all real, however not everyone agrees about the churches. Essentially, we have one group of people affected by the phenomenon and one group not affected. This is a very good point. With the schism, we have an experimental group and a control group. By questioning the differences in their stories, we can uncover more information. Can't reach the BRS, not now. We may as well try another angle. Fine, but as soon as we have another lead, we go after that. I don't want this to turn into a tangent about religious scholarship.
Hey,
You really think I'd do that, Erica? Yes. Absolutely. I suppose you're right. Is Madeline Gray still going to help us? Yes, though I think she was disappointed. Good. I'll think up some tasks for her when we're on our way to the station. Wouldn't want her getting in the way of our bonding time. Sure, you do that. Just give me some voices! We meet up with Maddie at the station and tell her about our plan. She's instantly skeptical.
I don't know about that.
You want to investigate the churches? What could they possibly have to do with Jessica and Gary or the Tail Repatriation Society? That's what I said, but you can be very convincing.
My friend.
Don't worry, Madeline. I have a different task in mind for you. August, let's be clear. I'm still the one giving orders.
Yes.
Of course you are. Anyway, I would like to find out everything you can about this building we're in now.
Huh?
City Hall? Exactly. You claimed that before the contingency it was just a simple one-story building that looks nothing like this, don't you? I don't just claim it, I know it.
Is that so?
Yes, well, unusual claims require proof, and your claim is quite unusual.
About that.
Why would Battail have any government building this big?
Good question.
I don't know, but it seems more plausible than one building turning into another. I mean, the fact they didn't have a train station before, potentially, is also weird. My point is that not that you are lying, but that I would like proof. Find something, anything, that shows what the prior City Hall looked like. So a picture? That would work, but even better would be the original plans, building permits, anything at all would be good.
Are you sure about that?
There's a ton of stuff in the filing room, but it might take a long time to go through. Are you sure this is a valuable use of my time, Erica? The second we have anything more useful, I'll pull you out of there, trust me. I'm giving August a short lead on some of the wilder ideas.
Oh?
Nalish, I didn't think you'd be into that sort of thing, Erica. Why did I put myself through this? Because the other options were more boring. Sorry, Madeline. I'm gonna go start with files. You two enjoy yourself, I guess.
Erica.
So, shall we head over to the Lucian Church and see if the pastor is at home? Okay. Alright. The side effect of hydrating with 2 glasses of water in the last break is that I need another break. I'm going to make some more tea this time as well. So, I'll be back in a few minutes. Enjoy the void. I'm back. I have tea. Make sure the channel wakes up. Right. Whew. Oh. The last time I was at the Lucian Church was during a sermon, so the environment is quite different. We arrive as Pastor Kimberly is cleaning up after a morning breakfast she holds every so often. Hopefully we should be good to finish out the stream now without having to have another break. It's just, you know, if the whole yawning thing was... Well, I had a lavender candle burning, which I've changed over to a different fruity one, and I was possibly a bit dehydrated, so it seems to have helped. So we shouldn't need to stop again before we finish the stream. It's important to have breaks, and it's important for everyone else to be able to have breaks as well. So. Anyway, we'll get on. The tables have been put up, but there are a couple of large trash bins nearby, and the room still smells vaguely of bacon. I can't remember if she's voiced, or even what voice I did for her last time. Ah, Sheriff, if you're here for breakfast, I mustn't say you're a bit late. No, actually, she spots August behind me. Undoubtedly she's heard something about him since the death of Principal Vincent. Everyone has, though they all seem to have missing or incomplete information. I hope there's no trouble.
Hello there.
Trouble? Oh no, don't worry, we're just here to ask a few questions. Is this your new deputy? I know he had some role in helping you out with that terrible business with Liam Battelle, but this seems unconventional. There's a lot of unconventional going around at the moment.
Absolutely.
And speaking of which, we'd like to know a bit more about your faith. Oh, in that case, my doors are always open. Surely you both know as much. You were not so welcoming the last time I was here with questions. And I have come up with more now that I have the sheriff by my side. I can see her repressor wince. How widespread do you believe your religion is? What kind of question is that?
Well...
Does it only exist in Battelle? Of course not. It exists all over the world. What are you talking about?
Are you paying attention?
I am a tenured professor of philosophy at a major American university, and I've never even heard of... August? How about you let me answer the questions? Ask the questions. No, I'm used to it. He is one of the lost ones. It can't be helped. As far as we can tell, there's no rhyme or reason for who was chosen.
Huh?
Lost ones? You think I'm lost? When the towers rose, a great sadness beset so many of the people in town. Maybe many of the people in the world, who's to know? Lost ones forgot their faith in our Saviour, Lucius Christ, and they turned to someone else for false redemption, Jesus the Weak. We believe it is a test, though we do not know if we are the ones being tested or you. What exactly is this great sadness? I know someone would say that you lost the light of our Lord Lucius, but I do not believe it is that. I believe he still shines on you, giving you the path to prosperity and success. August is quiet for a moment, then turns to me.
Life is irrational.
We have to consider the possibility that it was our minds that were altered and not theirs, you know. We do?
But
How would we know? This, of course, has incredibly disturbing implications. What else about our past might have changed when the towers rose? Aren't we here to figure that out? Yes, I need to think. Go ahead and ask your questions. I look at Pastor Kimberly. I can see that despite her calm demeanour, we are taxing her patience a bit. Sorry about August. He could be challenging in more ways than one. Do you have any questions for me, Sheriff? Wait, one more. Tell me what you think a Catholic is. Kimberly thinks for a moment, as if that may be a tougher question than she expected. August, is this really necessary? You said we were here to ask her about her faith. I don't mean the questions, I mean the tone. I believe there are a couple of people who I've spoken to who have used that term to describe themselves. I don't think they go to the other church, though. In my brief chat with them, they seem to be following an older version of their religion's teachings, with some similarities to the pan-cosmic Lucian Church. Hi, Vor! We're having a religious debate. No vampires right now, but, you know, weird religion mutation.
How interesting.
So, two distinct timelines. I must admit, though, that your oldest continuous version of Christianity got the much better name. I bet teenage August would be very tempted to join the Pan-Cosmic Church. Well, Erica, I'm impressed at the very roundabout way you took to call me a nerd. Anyway, back to your questions. I need to think some more. What else do you want to know? So before the contingency, everyone was a Lucian? Everyone was a Christian? You don't go calling your other churches Jesuin, do you? Actually, Jesuit is a thing.
I believe.
There we are. The term would be Jesuits, and that's an entirely different thing. You're not helping. Sorry, back to thinking. Sorry, I meant to ask whether everyone believed in Lucius Christ. Of course not. There were other religions. Forgive me for what sound like a dumb question, but those other religions? Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim, just like you remember. We weren't living in some kind of other world, Sheriff, nor were you. There was one difference. It's a pretty big difference. You know that as much as anyone.
Perhaps.
Did anything at all else change for you after the contingency? City Hall.
Yes.
Yes, we have someone working on that. You have someone working on that? What does that even mean? We're investigating it. Any other changes? Just those awful towers. What else do you need to know? So, do you have any theories about why certain people were lost, as you put it? Among those who regularly attended church in Battelle, it was almost entirely split by which church was attended. Those who practice here were not lost, and those who practice at the Anointed Lucian Church, a few blocks north, were. With everyone else, it was fairly random as far as I can tell. Do you think that means anything? If I were a prideful person, I would ascribe to my leadership, but I'm not foolish enough to credit myself with this matter. You said Anointed Lucian Church. What does that mean? Well, right now, you're in Battelle United Modal. Were, I suppose, Battelle First Anointed and Battelle Gatherers. So there are multiple versions of Lucianist Christianity. What's the difference? There are several, but the most significant to me is that I couldn't be an anointed pastor. They only allow men. Also, they typically teach that once you've truly accepted Lucius into your heart, you can never be without his light. Your failings can only ever be your own lack of will. You don't believe that? What God asks of us is devotion, hard work, and rigour. Failing to act on what he taught us through his only begotten Son is a fall from grace. But we can always pick ourselves back up again. No man is saved just once. I see. There are also Ascensionists who are similar to us but pretend to believe in a more direct intervention by the divine. I have to say, with recent events, I can understand why. If I'm being honest, the difference between the churches really truly matters to most of the congregation. Many people drift between them. For most people, it's not about the doctrine, but the scripture and community. Were the people who drifted between the churches lost? It was almost entirely those people who were currently attending each one regularly. At this, August changed.
Are you sure?
Almost. It's not all, dear Pastor, and what we're looking for is very important that you use that word. Is there anyone who regularly attended your services then that was lost? Yes, actually. There was one young woman, Stacy Grenier. She was here almost every Sunday, and yet... August and I exchanged looks. Let me guess, you're going to tell me that there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Life is irrational.
Of course not. The world is full of coincidence. Finding a connection that has true meaning is what is truly rare. I live at Stacy's house, Pastor. I had no idea about all this. As far as I knew, she always went to First Baptist. Looks like we'll need to have a chance to chat with your roommate. Anything else from me? What do you think about the other church here? What's your relationship with them? It is somewhat fraught, I must admit. I remember when they taught some of the same lessons as us, then suddenly... They call what they teach Christianity, but that's not what it is. It's some strange heresy that I can't fully wrap my mind around. They teach of a different Son of God, a poor carpenter who gave everything to those more needy than him. Yet I see the homes those pastors have. I remember the cars they used to drive. It made much more sense when they followed the example of our true Lord, who taught that to be able to give, one must not ever want. Do you ever talk to Pastor Reese? I used to, but I can't anymore. I just don't understand, and he's angry. He's just as angry with me. By numbers, we're a minority here in Battail. There are fewer of us, and yet they act like we're the threat to them. Quite frankly, I think it's best if we just all avoid each other. What about your followers? How do they get along with the others in town? The smart ones don't talk about it. I know our Lord wants us to spread his word, but we find the lost to be almost unreachable. I know this is a test of some sort. We must prosper despite adversity. We must will ourselves to be more so that they will see our prosperity in his light and come to us. Honestly, I am surprised there hasn't been more violence. I'm the sheriff, and there have been incidents. There have. I believe both sides are very good about keeping it quiet. That's troubling, to say the least. I'd rather not talk about that unless there's an incident you're investigating. Well, no, I'd like to investigate all of them. Please, let's move on. That's it for now. I don't mean to be rude, Sheriff, but why are you asking all of these questions? As far as I can tell, we're not committing any crimes here. I glance over at August. Are you done thinking, or do you have an answer for her?
Well,
We're covering our bases. When we hit a home run, we wanted to be a grand slam.
But-
That metaphor was good, wasn't it? I mean, there was nothing technically wrong with it. You researched sports, didn't you? Research is how you solve many problems. I'm sorry, do you think we're somehow involved with the disappearance of those kids or Principal Vincent? This might sound confusing, but bear with me. We're working on a very complicated theory of a case that may be connected to several of the mysteries following the contingency. The appearance of the Lucian Christian Church, or to you the appearance of the First Baptist Church, is one of those mysteries. You're right. We are. It does sound confusing. Now, if there's nothing else, I'd really like to get back to cleaning up. Thank you for your time. We'll be on our way. Are you going to be asking the folks over at First Baptist, or whatever it's called, the same questions?
perhaps.
Similar questions, at least. While you're there, could you at least suggest they leave us alone? Some of my folk are scared to wear their cross-outs to the dollar store. I'll say something to them. Thank you. Once we return to City Hall, August goes to my desk and looks around.
Erica.
So then, where's your lovely brown journal? My what?
Duh.
You know, the leather book I watched you jot notes in every day for 6 months. Oh, well, that's personal.
Oh,
Hi, Scruff. Really? I assume you used it for investigation logs. You'd always write in it after talking to a witness or whatnot. I use it to process my thoughts. I filter out my first impressions, assumptions, that sort of thing.
how interesting.
Oh, so it's more like a diary. Now I'm even more intrigued. He reaches for the drawer in my desk where I keep the leather journal. I grab his wrist, stopping him before he can open the drawer.
Huh?
Shouldn't we write down our thoughts on the Lucian Church? This journal is for me. Official investigation reports go in the filing cabinet. Official reports? And who's those for? Mayor Ward? If he ever wished to read them, yes.
Ugh.
But he doesn't, because he's useless. His arm relaxes in my grasp, but I continue to hold his wrist, afraid to reach for my journal again.
My friend.
No matter. I was excited to get a peek at your mysterious journal, but I don't want to ruin the sweetness of today's partnership with a bit of squabble. Sweetness? Yes, I think we work quite well together, don't you? Our various modes of questioning compose a certain harmony. It's kind of like a good cop, bad cop, with more of an analytical, synthetic distinction. You're speaking nonsense again.
But-
you agree with me, don't you? We make a good team? Oh, God. Probably. Right, I'll be back in a minute. Fly, go away. Sure. Your line of questioning can be tactless, but I admit it can also be useful.
Whatever you say.
And your line of questioning can be inane, but it does get people talking. I'm trying to think of a taught, but struggle. We haven't learned much yet. But we unearthed some new leads, didn't we? Such as your roommate, Stacy. I call that a success. Despite myself, a smile pulls at my mouth. He shifts his hand slightly, releasing his wrist from my grasp, and then clutching my hand with a warm handshake.
Erica.
Nice job today, partner. You too. I feel heat spreading to my cheeks. I quickly pull my hand from his and turn away. Someone scoffs and shuffles around. Both August and I turn at the same time to see Liam turning over in his cell.
What?
What was that, Liam? You have something to add?
No!
I have nothing to say to you, Heartbreaker. August turns to me with a scowl.
Bad idea.
Are we just going to listen in on every conversation we have here? You listened to every conversation I had here for months. Yes, but I had useful reflections to offer. Your reflections drove me crazy.
Was that so bad?
No, you liked it. His smug smile flips back into a scowl as he turns to the current prisoner. Liam, on the other hand, is a blood-sucking betrayal. We shouldn't share any information with him. Liam sits up with a growl. You don't hate me because I'm a betrayal or even because I'm a vampire. You hate me because you're the Heartbreaker and you can't stand being copied. August goes very, very still. His expression becomes stone-like, completely unreadable. This look scares me more than when he's obviously scheming something. After a long, uncomfortable silence. Well, my mood's ruined. I think I'll go home and write in my own other journal. You have one too? Not physically, but I keep one in my mind palace. He winks and taps his temple. Liam scoffs loudly, then makes a point of loudly returning to his cot. Besides, I refuse to suffer that killer's presence any longer than necessary. Care to join me, Erica? No, I'll wrap up here. We'll regroup in the morning. Very well. With a forced smile, August turns and leaves. I take a deep breath, trying to clear my head of the tension between August and Liam. I need to process my thoughts about the church while they're still fresh. I pull out my brown journal and start writing. I spent longer writing than I intended. The truth is, I've been curious about the discrepancies between the church timelines for a while now. I just didn't think it was worth investigating until August convinced me. I'm on my way out of City Hall when a dark form materializes suddenly behind me.
Oh, Erica.
All alone tonight? My heart pounds, my stomach burns with adrenaline, but it's too late to draw my gun. The glint in Charlotte's eyes suggests she can sense my frown. Oh, don't worry, Sheriff. I come in peace. I just stare at her and wait, unable to bury my fear. Remember how many times Liam warned me that Charlotte would kill me when I arrested him?
Just awful.
Oh dear, there's just far too much tension in the air. Let's just clear some of that up, shall we? You know what I am now, you understand the nature of my whole family. But you aren't going to tell anyone because that would throw this poor little town into further chaos. I could kill you any time I'd like, but I won't because you're a good sheriff and you amuse me. So let's just hold a normal conversation like friendly adults, shall we? What do you want, Charlotte?
Well,
Naturally, I was hoping to chat with your friend August. Aren't you two working together now? How do you... Never mind. Yes, but he already went home. Oh well, maybe it's better I talk to you about this anyway. What do you want to talk about?
naturally.
The Heartbreaker. The serial killer who murdered 7 people and cut out their hearts. He's August Flynn, yes? Well, allegedly.
Why?
Oh, is that your line? When I first asked about August, you were quite insistent that he was a cold-blooded killer. I believe he was the Heartbreaker killer. Yes, but he never got convicted in a court of law. The contingency happened before his trial.
Yes.
Fine. So what got him arrested? What evidence tied August Flynn to the murders? My tongue feels numb for a moment. Why is it so hard for me to talk about all of this all of a sudden? Oh, I see. You'd like to forget about his past now that he's useful to you. No, I don't see why I should tell you any of this. After all, when I gave Liam details about the Heartbreaker, he used that information to murder someone and frame August.
I don't think so.
Well, that card has been played. Do you actually think I'd play it again? I don't know, but I doubt your intentions are honourable.
Please.
Please, Sheriff. I'm asking you. about the Heartbreaker as a concerned and perhaps curious citizen. The sheriff has teamed up with a man accused of a serial murder. Don't I have a right to know more about his past? So let's review. I already know that the Heartbreaker cuts out his victims' hearts. Duh. Did he do this while they were dead or alive? Usually he removed it post-mortem. Usually. In a couple of cases, the time of death was unclear. Was there anything else different about these victims? Maybe August hated them more than the others. I don't recall the details right now, but you shouldn't make assumptions like that.
Potato, potato.
You call them assumptions, I call them gut instincts. Maybe I understood the Heartbreaker better than you do, darling, and that's why you should tell me more. What else can you tell me about the Heartbreaker? Anything? Everything? I'm dying to hear it all. Let's discuss the drawings. The strangest thing, and the thing no one has ever been able to figure out, is the drawings that the Heartbreaker makes around his victims.
What are you talking about?
Drawings? Like little stick figures? No, more like symbols. They look like writing, but they aren't written in a language or even an alphabet that's ever been identified. That's actually how I ended up first hearing about the case. The Bureau passed around a memo basically asking every agent whether they recognized the symbols. Not a single person responded in the affirmative. Honestly, when your brother tried to fake a Heartbreaker murder, it should have been painfully clear when he used ancient Greek. Then again, it took August to point it out.
Impressive!
A completely unfamiliar language. Sounds fascinating. Maybe I can help. Do you have any pictures of it? You think you might know a language that is completely unfamiliar to literally everyone at the FBI? I don't know. I'm very worldly. Well, no, there are no pictures. I don't have anything related to the Heartbreaker here in Mattel.
Well,
Except for the man himself. The only reason August and I are here is because of a prisoner transport. They weren't exactly carrying the case files along with him.
that's unfortunate.
Maybe one of these days I'll get him to draw the symbols so I can have a look-see. Good luck with that, Charlotte. Any more information you can share? Should we just stop giving information? I mean, the symbols, you know, are harmless, but anything else sounds more gory. But I'm also curious about the victims. You know what, I'm just going to give all the information as well. I suppose you probably want to know exactly who the Heartbreaker killed.
Naturally.
Of course, I'm sure he chose his victims carefully. Unfortunately, there was no real profile for his victims. There were 4 men and 3 women. The youngest was 32, the oldest was 70. 5 victims were white, 1 was black, 1 was Japanese. They all lived in different states. Honestly, if he hadn't displayed the victims so uniquely, we would never have known it was the work of the same killer.
But
You had to have something in common. He didn't pick completely random people, did he? I didn't fully investigate his case. He was never sloppy enough to kill in his own backyard in St. Louis, so the official files never came across my desk. All I have is gossip. The closest thing they could come to a constant between all the victims was that they were, I guess the phrase would be well connected. Oh, so powerful people. Should I be worried now that he's free and working with you? Not at all. It wasn't power or wealth, though none of the victims were poor. It's more like this. Let's say that they were all people who could fill a chapel at their funeral, but never made the national news. Are you saying no one would come to my funeral? You live alone with your brothers and only come into town for church services and to harass me? No, I don't think there would be a lot of mourners. Well, quality is more important than quantity, if you say so. Anything else of note? The Heartbreaker seemed to put special care in when he displayed his victims, or more specifically, where they would be discovered. There was something that seemed off about Principal Vincent's murder. Placing a principal in the school gym just seemed too obvious for the Heartbreaker. I didn't mention the fact that August himself pointed this out to me.
is that important?
So where did he usually display them? Well, it was always different. Think back to what else August told me in the gym. I was familiar with the Heartbreaker murders previously, but hadn't thought much about the placement until August brought it up. One woman was displayed in another man's living room. He lived alone and came home one day to an awful discovery. Another was placed in the field in the winter, tended by a single caretaker. The field was 100 miles from the victim's home.
Interesting.
So, I think the certificate is not where, but who discovers the bodies, wouldn't you agree? Yes, but I always start with the facts before adding speculation.
How fun.
This is so very interesting, just delightful. What else can you tell me about him? I think I've given you enough grisly details.
No.
Actually, you still haven't answered my very first question. How did August get caught? I don't know all the specifics. I wasn't involved in the investigation directly, but I know the police connected August Flynn's location to all 7 murders. August was present at each location when a murder occurred, usually giving guest lectures at nearby colleges. I see, but something must have made the police notice him before they researched his travel records. How did he give himself away? I searched my memory. I saw an internal report about August shortly after his arrest. Why is it so hard for me to conjure those memories now? Has my friendship with him made me forget his past so completely? I remember something about a letter. Yes, August wrote a letter. After the last murder, Paul Blanchard, the news was on fire talking about the Heartbreaker. The news painted it as another tragedy in a string of heinous crimes that had to be stopped. Professor Flynn wrote to the police department saying that he met Paul Blanchard during his visit to Denver. He wrote that he'd heard troubling reports connecting Paul Blanchard to the sale of illegal drugs in the area, and he felt his duty to report it in light of Blanchard's death. Illegal drugs? He set Charlotte giggling for quite some time. Well, isn't that interesting? Why do you think August wrote a letter like that? I don't know. Perhaps he wanted to mislead them. Maybe, or he actually wanted the police to investigate Blanchard. Maybe he was angry that the news focused more on the heartbreaker than the actual victim.
That was entertaining.
Well, Sheriff, you've been most helpful. Thank you so much for enlightening me. What are you scheming, Charlotte?
Why?
Why must I be scheming? Maybe I'm just worried there's a serial killer on the loose. Because you numbnut. You're the one that set him free. Yes, well, I didn't expect him to join law enforcement. You're the one who made that happen. Enjoy your bloody partnership, Sheriff. And just like that, she vanished into the night. Meanwhile, harrowing memories of the Heartbreaker's murders linger in my mind, casting a dark shadow over the day's events. And it's best to keep him under foot and in eye than anything else, isn't it? X is being useful and helpful. He's probably not going to kill anyone. Maybe they were all criminals. The people that were killed. Maybe it's a bit like Dexter, where he only killed the criminals, the bad peoples. I didn't sleep well that night. Perhaps going over the details of the Heartbreaker murders with Charlotte wasn't the best idea now that I'm working with August. I thought I could compartmentalise who he was before the contingency and make use of his intelligence during this crisis. But as I feel myself growing closer to him, I like August, but I also feel disgust. The next morning I jump when I hear a knock on the door. I know it's August, and that knowledge sends adrenaline through my stomach. I'll get it. No, you won't. You'll stay right there in the kitchen.
Oh,
You must be hungry this morning. Yeah, something like that. Didn't put it off any longer. I head to the door and open it up. August is standing there with a slight smirk on his face. I can't believe that yesterday I might have thought it was charming.
Hello there.
Good morning, Erica. I trust you stuck to the plan and didn't mention any of this to your roommate yet? Of course not. I've run an investigation before, August.
Well,
Oh my. You seem especially feisty this morning. I was just making sure. Let's just get this over with. Are you going to invite me in? Do I need to? August raises his eyebrows for a moment, but then breaks out in a grin. Oh, how clever. You're testing to make sure I'm not a vampire. That's excellent thinking. It wasn't. Might as well keep believing that my cold response had a purpose. These days, I suppose neither of us can be too sure. He takes a deep breath, straightens his back, and steps inside. The second he crosses the threshold, his body begins to twitch. Oh no, I'm burning up. My skin is on fire. I gasp, though I think I know what's coming. He almost immediately calms down and recomposes himself. Just kidding. You should have seen the look on your face. I knew you were faking. I'm not so sure about that, Erica. Let's just get this over with. August and I head towards the kitchen where Stacy is finishing up breakfast.
Huh?
Who was that, Erica? I heard you. She turns around and her words catch in her throat. Oh, it's that man from the police station. You said... Stacy, this is August Flynn. He's helping me with an investigation temporarily.
You have me all wrong.
Temporarily. I am wounded, Erica. You must know that I plan to do such a tremendous job that you have no choice to take me on full time.
Well?
I didn't know we were going to have guests. I would have made more eggs and pancakes and... No need to worry about me. I've been devouring everything in sight since I got out of jail, so I could use help maintaining my slender figure. Are you sure? And you can have my breakfast and I can make some more. I don't have to be at the dollar store for another few hours. Well, if you really insist. No, thank you, Stacy, but that really isn't appropriate. Oops.
What?
Appropriate? Why is that? Can I not socialize with your family, Erica? Family? Household? Whatever. You're not making any of this easy,
No.
August. Nothing worthwhile is easy. I let out an audible groan. I haven't even tried to hide it. I think this gets the point across to August that I'm not in the mood for bantering. He quiets up immediately. Stacy, would actually like to ask you a few questions.
Really?
Did I do something wrong? No, of course not. It's just... I feel even bad putting Stacy through this. Do I really think we're going to learn something from her that will lead to Gary and Jessica? August, do you want to explain it? What is the best way to put this? We spoke with Pastor Kimberly at the church south of City Hall. Know her? Oh yeah, I have a grocery order for tomorrow.
Oh.
Yes, I will. Eric, are you finally looking into the weird stuff they get up to then? What kind of weird stuff are you talking about? Stacy looks at me like I've lost my mind.
That's wrong.
What kind of weird stuff? They worship the devil. They do? Yes, what else could it be?
Perhaps.
Technically, it could be correct to say they worship an antichrist. See, he agrees with me. That's not necessarily a good thing. What do you mean by antichrist, August?
Caterus paribus.
The prefix anti does not literally mean opposite, but could mean opposing. Throughout the history of the church, there have been people who have stood in opposition to the lawful pope and attempted to occupy the position, often with significant support. These were called anti-popes by those supporting the supposedly genuine article. This Lucius fellow does seem to be another person attempting to occupy the position of Christ. Don't worry about what he's saying, Jesse. Jesse? Stacy? My god, my brain's mixed up. He's just trying to sound smart. Trying to put aside what you think of Kimberly's church, I want to ask you about a claim she made that you used to be one of her congregation.
Let's see.
Yes, well, back when it was United Methodist, but then... She looks away. Her hands fidget with each other.
Is that so?
But after the contingency, the Bible's changed. What else? I glared pointedly at August. Let's listen to her version of the story before we jump to conclusions, please.
It's hard to think about.
Well, he's right. The Sunday after the contingency, I showed up and everything was different. First, I thought it was just a strange sermon. You know, after everything we've been through, I imagined the pastor didn't have much time to get her writing in. But then I picked up the hymn book. I didn't recognize any of the songs. They were all about some other god. I was terrified. I didn't want to just get up and go. I looked around and no one else seemed as concerned as me, so I just stayed. I stayed through the whole sermon and prayed there was just some kind of misunderstanding.
I suppose.
I suppose it wasn't, since you've never been back.
Let's see.
And afterward, I tried to talk to Pastor Kimberly. I tried to figure out what was going on. She just made things more confusing. She said I'd never had questions like this, that I'd always been a friend of Lucius. She asked me why none of the other members were acting strange, if I was wrong. This just made me even more scared, so I ran. I ran out of the church and never looked back. Did Pastor Kimberly ever try and talk to you about this again? A couple of times I saw her around town. She asked how I was doing. She asked me why I left, and I couldn't explain myself. How could I even begin?
Use your brain.
Think harder. That's how you begin. What does that even mean, August? Look, she's an anomaly. Her experience of the church split is the best chance to understand what happened, so she needs to explain it better. Stacy, before that day, had you ever even heard the name Lucius Christ before? I don't think so.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? This is critical, Stacy. She's doing the best she can, okay, August?
But
I thought you wanted me to be the bad cop. I don't want to be any sort of cop. Then why did you choose to work with me? Stacy's looking away, fidgeting again. Her mind seems to be somewhere else entirely. I'm sorry, Stacy. I didn't mean to put pressure on you. When she next looks over, she stares at August.
Really?
What do you mean by that? How am I an anomaly? I'll explain a bit more if Erica will permit me. As far as we can tell, there is precisely one member of Pastor Kimberly's congregation who did not instantly turn to Lucian Christianity on the day of the contingency. That's you.
That's wrong!
Lucian Christianity? It's blasphemy, our August friend, to even compare the two.
a priori.
No matter what you think, all those people believe you are the ones committing blasphemy. Every single person who went to their church but you. That's why I need you to tell me what makes you different.
Erica.
The night of the contingency, the moment the towers rose up, I was in Battalion United Methodist Church praying. When it happened, the whole ground shook and it rumbled like an earthquake, but something else happened. Too, I had some kind of vision.
I can't imagine.
It was probably meaningless, but it made no sense, but it was terrible. I saw demons, and one demon in particular who rose up and tried to join the devil. Lucius. That's the feeling I got, anyway. It was hard to explain. There was this big, slug-like creature with tentacles and lots of eyes, and it called itself lots of things. I think it was Satan, but Lucius merged with it. Anyway, when it was over and I came back to my body, my chest was burning. I was wearing a silver necklace with Jesus' cross on it. It was burning hot and glowing red. I looked down and saw that the cross had changed. The sides of the cross pushed and tilted diagonally like an X. I ran out of the church, then I saw the towers, and after that, well, you know the rest.
Wait.
This is incredible, Stacy. You were in the church when it transformed? Truly remarkable. Tell me more about your vision of Lucius. You said this large creature had... The visions were mostly nonsense. I still don't know if it meant anything. All I know is that it felt terrible. Where is the necklace that changed into an X? Do you still have it? No. When I realized the whole church had fallen under the devil's influence, I threw the necklace into the river. In which part of the river? Near the south end of the bridge?
Oh?
Well, even if the vision were nonsense, I'd like to learn more. You said the satanic creature had many names. What other names did it have? I don't... You notice that Stacy is trembling, chewing her lips until they turn red. That's enough, August.
What?
Enough. This is the closest we've come to learning more about Lucius, and that's enough. Fine. We can always return to Miss Grenier if needed. It's not like any of us is going anywhere. August storms out and slams the door. An awkward silence follows his absence.
Erica.
Are you sure you're okay? You didn't seem to like working with them. I think he's probably the one who can help me solve all of this. Yesterday, though, I was reminded about who he was, and I can't stop thinking about his crimes.
I'll pray about it.
Even a murderer? Oh, hang on.
I'll pray about it.
Oh, I shudder to think of that too. But everyone can be saved, Erica. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even a murderer? Even a murderer. You wouldn't say that if you knew one of his victims. I'd like to think I still would. That's what it means to forgive someone.
God has a plan.
I have a feeling about that man, Erica. If anyone can find more about Lucius and how to stop him, I think you and August are the best ones to do it. Thanks. I hope you're right. I'll be back later. I'll tell you what we find.
But...
You don't have to tell me anything. Please don't involve me any more than necessary. I don't want to think about those horrible demons ever again if I can help it. Understood. Outside the house, I find August waiting for me. He's looking around, almost like he's casing my house. Do you see something interesting? Hi, Lady McGree!
Well...
Yeah, it's just so still. It's the lack of animals. You see so few squirrels and birds. I keep forgetting you've been locked up this whole time. Yes, it does seem like there is significantly less wildlife than there should be. And being honest, I don't know if that's because it's a small town or because of the contingency.
Perhaps.
Or because the soil is laced with lead. Also a possibility. What did you need to talk to her about alone? She said to give you a second chance.
But-
Second chance? Did I already ruin the first? Killed several people, August.
Hey,
Firstly, no I didn't. Secondly, we thought the same thing yesterday. What changed? I was just reminded, that's all. Well, I'm not going to get into arguing with your religious friend about whether or not people deserve second chances. Hi, Dan. I just ask you to take this first chance a bit more seriously. I'll see what I can do. Should we be on our way to First Baptist? Actually, I should go by the precinct first, check on Maddie and everything else. While you're doing that, perhaps I'll go for a swim. The Mateo River is quite stagnant as rivers go. There's a chance Stacy's necklace is still there somewhere. I don't know what we would learn from a piece of jewelry.
are you paying attention?
You're transformed from a Christian cross into a Lucian X. Surely that's significant. Look, you don't have to search with me, but I'd like to try. Do you know where I might find a metal detector? I think there's one at the precinct. Perfect. I know you've been here, but it's like what Kara does. If someone pops up... But if someone pops up again, you know, I assume they were lurking, so I say hi. Kara does it, you don't yell at her. And you may have fallen asleep, you know. You've done that before. I've done that before. I've done that before on stream. I almost feel like I should go for a walk or something. Maybe I'll go for a walk after dinner. Ah, hi, Leaky. We split up as discussed. I lend August the metal detector from the precinct. I'm also it's like I really want this chapter to be over so I can try and do the next chapter, but then, you know, it's like maybe I'm only going to get 2 chapters a stream, which will mean that I'm not going to finish it. Hi, Jessie. I'm not going to finish it before my break. I might have to finish it after my break. Unless I do slightly longer. It's just I'm tired. So there's small chance that I might fall asleep before I finish this chapter. It depends when this chapter ends. If the chapter ends before 6, we'll continue. We can always leave it in half a chapter. And some of the other chapters might be shorter. This one seems to be longer. Not played Artful Escape yet. Is it any good? I know it's on Game Pass, so I could play it. I don't know whether it's going to be a game I like. If you've got a VOD, I can always catch up on that. Oh, I hate the whole I have a thing today, so therefore I can't get anything else done feeling. Oh, that's a good recommendation, Lady Magritte. Break officially starts after next weekend. It's in my Twitch schedule. I'll be missing... I was streaming this week and next weekend, and then I've got a week and a half off. I know you're off soon, aren't you, Dan? Friday? You're away Friday? I know, because you said you would miss Kara's stream. I think you were away before I was away. You were going, I want to say, to a lock. But that might just be because I want to go visit a lock. We split up as discussed. I lend August the metal detector from the precinct. I help Maddie tend to some basic chores at the office. I promise to follow up on a complaint about Ben O'Doyle being rowdy at the diner again. Several hours later, I make my way to the Patel River bridge to check on him. Oh no, the stream's on Friday. Oh, you won't miss it. Good. I have to walk about half a mile south of the bridge before I see him. Fair enough. So you'll miss Cozy Saturday, the fourth part of this, and then nothing else. But I can catch you up the week after. I could even do it on the Thursday if I've not lined up another stream. Because I'll be streaming on the Thursday after the week and a half. But anyway, I've put it in my schedule, so people check my Twitch schedule, and I also post it in my Discord as well. Eesh, ow. When I get close enough to see his face and body clearly, my breath catches in my throat. His torso is bare, and his pants are so wet they cling closely to his body, leaving little to the imagination. A mixture of water and sweat glistens across his face and back. Yeah, but you don't want to have to think about, you know, streams on when you're on holiday. You have a relax. I mean, I'm probably not going to watch any streams for part of the week. Maybe some in the half week, but, you know, spending time with my family. Well, some of my family. His head and shoulders sag with exhaustion. I wonder if this is the first break he's taken since starting his search. He notices me staring at him, though. He perks up slightly. Soft pink hue flushes his cheeks.
Oh, hello, Erica.
Oh, this bit is voiced. Oh, thank God for that. Hello. How goes your search for the necklace?
Swimmingly.
He stands up and stretches, flexing his muscles in the process. He seems to know what effect he's having on me, and he's amused by it. So, you found it?
No, alas, I have not. But I have found 4 other necklaces, 20 coins, some rings, and a fair amount of indiscriminate junk.
Ah, I'm sorry.
Don't be. I'm enjoying this immensely.
As he talks, he walks towards me slowly. Now he stands right next to me, so close I can smell the river on his body. Yeah, he shakes his head, and I feel the water droplets sprinkle on my skin.
Erica, you look hot. Maybe you'd like to join me in the water?
No. No. I don't see where I should. You already spent enough time on this search. It's not worth more effort.
Well, we can also just swim for the fun of it.
What? No, we have much more important things to do.
Really, Erica, you need to let loose sometimes. Repressing emotions makes them stronger. One day, your rage and frustration will break free, and you'll lash out unintentionally.
I suppose you're speaking from experience? I think we're done here. I'm going to First Baptist Church next. Hopefully, Pastor Jeremy Reese hasn't gone home yet. So, the difference was that her housemate was in the Lucian church. Well, before it was a Lucian church, as it changed. And that meant she didn't become a believer. That is really interesting.
May I come along?
You're soaking wet.
So, I'll dry eventually.
Yes, you can come along, but please don't badger Pastor Reese.
I didn't realize I was badgering anyone. But very well. I'll try to act less like a badger and more like a harmless beaver. Let's just get going, please. You should lead the way. I don't know where anything is in this damn town.
But Dale First Baptist cast a different impression than the Lucian church we visited yesterday. In some ways it is more muted and austere, in others... Well, I can't help but think about Pastor Kimberly said yesterday about how the other churches took in more money, and yet none of it was necessarily used for anything but enriching the leaders. There was no breakfast for the congregation this morning. In fact, we walk into a completely empty chapel and head towards the office at the back to try and speak with the pastor. If I can recall, his name is generally Reese. I rarely ever have the chance to speak with him, mostly because the church hasn't been connected to any crimes over the last 6 months. We're almost to the door when Pastor Reese opens it up. Ah, Sheriff Wright, I must say I'm rather disappointed this is the first time you stepped foot in this church since you arrived, but I am glad you are here now. You are? Yes, of course. I'll be honest, there aren't a lot of people in this town that are happy when I come around. No, it just so happened I want to talk to you and the mayor about something. I know I'll see him on Sunday. Is this a personal matter, or something involving my office? My office, of course, Sheriff. Though if you'd ever like any counselling in this trying world, you know that my door is always open.
Yes.
This is a waste of time. Ask about the Lucians. I'm still Sheriff August. I have other duties than just this one case. Feel free to go off and do your own thing if you have a problem with that. You're in quite a mood today, Erica. I glare at him and turn my attention back to Pastor East. The positioning of his hair makes it look like he's horns. I have some questions for you too, but if there's another matter, I'd like to hear it out. Well, Sheriff, as you know, this has been a troubling time for Patel. That's one way to put it. Discovering that one of the Patel families is a murderer has put quite the mental strain on many of us, and I was thinking we could organise some kind of response unit. A response unit? What do you mean? Of course, I am happy to work with my congregation when I have time, but it's become quite a strain, and that is even without talking about those who, like yourself, don't avail yourself. Where are you going with this? I'd like to work with you and the mayor to set up an official Patel counselling and life planning service. We could assist with isolation, depression, and of course the severe alcohol and painkiller problems that are plaguing this town. I have several members of the congregation eager to perform counselling services, but without the authority of the city in your office, I have no way of directing troubled citizens to them.
Duh.
You could ask. What was that, young man?
Try spinning in a circle.
Sounds like you want Erica to make those people go to these very likely unqualified counsellors. Instead, maybe you should ask if people want the help. That's the thing, Sheriff. People don't know they want this kind of help. They think they're alone and that no one can pluck them out of their despair. Maybe some of us prefer the despair. Reese ignores August and turns towards me again. Who is this man? I don't think I've seen him around town before. He doesn't seem to like me.
Are you paying attention?
No, I'm August Flynn, and I was up in jail up until a few days ago. Sheriff Wright, you're going around with the other suspect in Principal Vincent's murder? It's a long story, and honestly, I don't want to get into it. He's a college professor who's consulting with me on a case. If I'm being honest, Pastor, I share his concerns about your plans. I'm not sure how I feel about what you're suggesting. Well, what I'm suggesting is something a bit more effective than throwing drunks in jail cell for a day and hoping they learn their lesson. At the very least, let me set up a branch of Alcoholics Anonymous for the poor folks who think they can just drink their way out of this. I'm not stopping you. No, but you could direct them my way. You could use your office to let me help them. What happens when someone doesn't go to counselling when Erica orders it? Throw them in a jail cell and hope they learn that lesson instead? That is what I'd like to discuss with everyone. I'm sure we can come up with something. I'm curious, Pastor, with everything that's happened to this town, the towers, and then the death of the entire police department, for example, why is it that the Principal Vincent's murder prompted this?
How interesting.
Not Vincent's murder, but the fact that one of the Patels was the one who did it. That is how you phrased it, isn't it, Pastor? Well, yes, the fact that a Patel committed the murder deeply disturbs our community. Don't the Patels worship at the Lucian Church? Yes, true, but even so, the Patels are the pillars of this entire town. One fallen pillar shakes us all.
But
I thought God was supposed to be your foundation or something like that. We are still only human, fragile sinners in need of Christ's love. So many tragedies in a row have led to a public health crisis. If anything, we should have done this sooner. I have a question for your pastor. Liam Patel was a significant donor to your church, wasn't he?
oh, this is interesting.
Now this is interesting, as I thought that all three Patels were members of the other church. Where are you getting this, August? August fixes his stare at Pastor Reese, who has gone surprisingly silent. He begins to circle him as if cornering his prey. The look in his eyes is deeply unsettling, but I need to hear what he has to say.
A priori.
It took a minute to figure out what you were getting at, but it all makes sense now. Why would Liam's imprisonment be the part that stands out to you? And why would you suddenly have a plan to direct more people to your church? That's the point, isn't it? Your councillors are all members of your church, which means they will undoubtedly recruit people. You will give them ideas to bring them in, and with that, more donations. Clearly, you're trying to make up for something derelict. The funny thing about all of this is that one of these days, people in this town are going to realise that money doesn't really mean anything anymore. So, how much of that was right? Well, enough of it. The people still need the support, Sheriff. Even if I do believe there will be some benefit to my church, that is also a benefit for the people of Patel. I'm curious if you actually believe that or not, but it is unimportant. You might as well agree to hear him out, Erica, and then you can pass along this information to the mayor. I'd be sure to. Now we have some questions for you, Pastor. You and this man are not making me feel like helping you, Sheriff. I thought you wanted us to work together. If you cooperate with our investigation, maybe I would take some of your advice on setting up a counselling service from the city.
I don't think so.
You don't have to do that, Erica. What? You're the one that wanted to ask him about the Lucian church. August motions me to step away from Pastor Reese. We have what we came for. I know what to do next. You do? Yes, let's be rid of this awful man. You don't mean... I mean we should just leave. He's given us our lead, Liam Battelle. Why was he supporting this church? Perhaps he's not a Lucian. He was at the other church last week. He's a deceptive young man, or at least he looks young, I suppose, knowing what we do. Really don't think we need anything else from Pastor Reese. No, and his answers can't be trusted anyway. Don't give him what he wants just to get him unreliable information. Is everything okay over there? Yes, we're fine. I think we're done here. You really don't do anything else? I suppose not. I'll talk with your mayor warder about your proposal. All I ask is that you do what is best for Patel. That's what I'm trying to do. August doesn't say anything else to me Reese or me as he leads us outside. I've seen him snap in anger before, but this time I can tell it's different. He's seething inside, but he's not mad. Not like he usually gets. Instead, it's almost like he's excited. Alright. Ugh. Okay. I'm just gonna hit save. I don't know why I'm so tired. Ridiculous. Oh, that would have been 10 p.m. I was confused then. So we did about 3 hours, and we've done 6 chapters. There are 4 left. I'll stay until 6. And then we'll go whether we're near the end of a chapter or not. I'll finish whatever part of the story I'm on and then leave it there. Just because I really am just falling asleep. It's ridiculous. Alright, I'll talk to my grandpa and have some food and then maybe get an early night. Maybe I'll do slightly more next Sunday. We'll see. We'll just have to play it by ear, basically. It may be that, like, you know, some of the other chapters are shorter, so it'll just pan out, but I'll finish it next week. The VODs go to YouTube, Dan. So, you know, you want to catch up, you can watch the VOD. I'm not finishing the game tonight. I can't do another... We just started chapter 7, so... 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 4 chapters. No way I'm finishing that tonight. Especially not talking all of it either. I mean, I could just flick through the scenes, but, you know. Flipping through the scenes is not quite the same without the voices, so. I said that we had one tiny scene with voice with him in the bloody river, and that's it. That's probably why I'm tired. Lots of voicing. I mean, it is warm. It's not oppressively so. It's raining, or it was raining. Not very much. It's probably just humid. Anyway, let's do a little bit more of the story. Just going to take a very, very quick break. We'll be back in a minute. Oh, thank you, Lakey, for gifting a sub to Lady Marguerite. Appreciate that. Very sweet of you. Right. Sorry, it's just when I find myself falling asleep, I just basically get up and go stick my head outside where it's cooler, and it helps. So yeah, it's just figured as I was almost nodding off reading that last bit that I would just get a little bit of fresh air. So don't put the screen up because I'm not making tea or anything. I just figured a little bit of fresh air helps, so I can, you know, go a little bit further in the story now. What has gotten into you, August? What has gotten into me? I could ask you the same thing. This is going wonderfully, and you've been in a sour mood all day. I wouldn't say this is going wonderfully, August. We still don't know anything more about Jessica or Gary or the Battelle Repatriation Society. Are you sure about that? Yes, I don't think the financial situation at the Battelle First Baptist Church is particularly relevant to our investigation. Patrick might be home. But it is. If Liam Battelle was a significant donor, it means perhaps he or all of the Battelles know more about the odd church switch than they're letting on. That still doesn't. You know what? Fine. We'll ask Liam Battelle about his donations, and hopefully it'll be voiced. I told you that you were being snippy. Aren't you having fun? Isn't this also fascinating? I just don't know. I suppose we'll follow up on this, but only because we haven't turned up any other leads. I'm so hungry. August and I part ways for the night to ruminate over what we've learned so far. The next morning, I'm late getting to the office. Apparently, so is August, because our paths cross at the City Hall entrance. We exchange grim nods as we make our way to the office. We both come to a stop simultaneously, our gaze fixed on the same spot. It's a red envelope. Written on the front is my name and August's. It's the BRS.
Do go on.
Can we do fingerprint? Because, I mean, someone's got to be delivering these things. We should, evidence handling procedure, fingerprints and analysis and shit. We've got to have some sort of facility for that. I see. Well, what are you waiting for? Open it. I hurry over and pick up the letter. My hands are shaking. Useless. You're supposed to be an FBI agent. Even I know better. All this business with the churches has just been a way to pass the time until this moment. It was the next thing the BRS wanted us to do. How did they lead Jessica and Gary to their fate, whatever that was? I tear open the envelope and read the letter aloud. Dear Cadet, we are pleased with your selection of partners, but in order to prove that you are worthy of repatriation, we need you to abandon your commitment to preserving the law. We believe your partner makes you capable of this, but we must know. Break into Pateo First Baptist Church and seal the personal Bible of Pastor Jeremy Reese. Place it where you delivered the last response. Sincerely, the Pateo Repatriation Society. What? What the hell?
What a shame.
Such a shame. I would much rather I had a peek inside the Lucian Church. Speaking of which, I should really get around to reading their version of the Bible, I'm sure. Enough about religion. We have our next lead. We don't have time for red herrings.
Oh?
Red herring. Oh, Erica, if this letter from the BRS means anything, it means we're on the right trail. I admit you might be onto something, but there's another option. Are you going to accuse me of forging this letter to justify my interest in the churches? Because I assure you that if I was going to get you to break the law, I would be far more creative than this. No, but now that you say it out loud, the thought had occurred to me once I realised the effect the letters have on you, but I didn't want to jeopardise our partnership. You're trying to earn my trust by saying you were seriously considering deceiving me.
Absolutely.
Let's just get inside and see if Maddie is here yet. Maybe she or even Liam saw who delivered this. That's a good point. One I hadn't even thought of. Inside the office, Maddie is leaning over a desk, poring over a box full of files. Another box is inside the jail cell. Liam is riffling through it. Maddie, quick, was this letter here when you arrived this morning? Huh? No, I would have picked it up and brought it in. Did you see or hear anyone outside?
Not so sure.
Sorry, boss, it's been as quiet as can be. Damn it. Liam, did you... Wait, what do you have there? Don't worry, you wanted me to go through everything in the file room and it's a lot. None of it's in order or even organised. I just figured he could help pick out anything related to City Hall.
Bad idea.
This is a terrible idea. Did you ever consider that he might find something useful to us and destroy it right there in the cell? Eric could take those documents away from him immediately.
I can handle this.
I'm right here. If he destroys anything, I'll see it and stop him. Then we'll know it's important and we can try and put it back together.
Are you sure?
What if he decides to consume the paper? Then how can we get it back? We know how far he'll go to keep us from the truth.
Hey!
I'm right here, and I'm not going to need some nasty old decades invoices or whatever you maniacs are looking for. Everyone calm down. If you need the help, Maddie, you can use Liam. Just keep an eye out.
Okay.
Thanks, Erica. Well, have either of you found anything on City Hall yet?
Not so sure.
Everything I found seems to indicate that the building was always this big, even though I know that's not true. I passed by here every day on my way to middle school. I would have never missed a building this tall, especially with everything so clear around it.
Huh?
So you're saying that not only did the buildings change when the towers rose, so did the paperwork? It sounds like there are references to other floors then. Any indication of what's on them?
About that.
Not at all. Only thing I found, a few folders from the outside and receipts from cleaning services to handle the exterior.
Wait!
From before the contingency? You think those invoices from a company in St. Louis came after it?
So many questions.
There's one thing Pete's curious that might be, well, what you can call an inconsistency.
Oh, this is interesting.
Maddie dips through a pile of papers and pulls out one of the newer looking sheets of paper. It's still a few years old, but it isn't yellowed like some of the others.
Right.
This is an invoice for the installation of a satellite dish on the roof from Man Brothers Electrical Solutions from 1998. I don't see any mention of the height of the installation or anything here. What am I looking at?
Well,
Well, here's the thing. You know I used to work for the Patels at their resort properties up in the Lake of the Ozarks? Well, when we had to change TV providers, we had to change dishes. I was the one that negotiated something, so that sort of stuff for all them, so I got bids from all the local companies to do the installation work. Man Brothers didn't submit a bid. They told us they didn't install on properties over 3 stories high. This building had 4 floors.
Marvelous.
I knew this was the job for you, Madeline. See, Erica, I told you I was the right partner. Maddie's the one who fitted this out. Yes, and I gave her the job, and she was the only person who could have caught this. Amazing work, even if I do say so myself. Full of himself. When we have time, we should talk to the mayor about the satellite dish business.
Come on now.
You know, I was the one that found that paper and told her it was about City Hall.
Oh, spare me.
Yes, well, anyone could have done that. However, I do have a use for you, imposter. This is going to be good. I'd like to ask you about... Hold up!
What?
Are you really so ignored with my interest on this matter that you won't even let me ask the questions? I motioned for him to step to the other side of the room and speak into my breath. If we're going to break into the church anyway, maybe we should get proof that he donated to them. Don't let him just straight up deny. If we have proof, it will force him to explain. He may still yet lie. That lie will be more useful than a flat denial, won't it? He chuckles a little in satisfaction. You are being delightfully clever, Erica. If we're going to do all this, I want to get the most out of it we can.
Whatever you say.
I like your thinking. We'll do as you wish and focus on the BRS letter for now, but I will return to this topic. I do realize Liam can probably hear them. Super hearing, generally a vampire thing. Fine. I spend the rest of my day fulfilling my duties at City Hall. August goes home claiming he'll spend the rest of the day reading Bibles, but we plan to meet each other at Patale First Baptist Church at midnight. I look for a chance to talk to Mayor Ward, but I don't see him all day. I go home to shower, eat dinner with Stacey, and take a short nap. But all too soon it's time to meet August at the church. I find August standing in the middle of the parking lot, staring through one of the church windows. Hey, shouldn't we be a bit more discreet?
It's a post-contingency rural church that's supposedly lacking in funds. We don't need to worry about security.
Even so, we should make a plan. We need to cover our tracks at least.
On the contrary, the more we plan, the more suspicious we look. Erica, stealing a Bible from a church is like taking candy from a baby. The only obstacle here is your own conscience. So can you overcome it or not?
I see your point. But what if Pastor Reese is still here?
He's not. I went by his house before coming here. He's at home.
You went by his house?
Aren't you glad I checked? You're the one so worried about getting caught.
But...
But what?
I remember the look in August's eyes when we questioned Pastor Reese earlier. It was an expression almost like hunger. What bothers me is they're not worried about security, but you went by his house anyway.
What are you going on about? I did it to reassure you, but clearly that's a lost cause.
Let's just get this over with.
You preach to the choir.
Well, aren't you going to lead the way?
The BRS letter said, you must abandon your commitment to preserving the law. I abandoned the law some time ago. You're the one who must do this, Erica.
Damn it. Fine. Just tell me what to do.
Might I suggest you try the front door?
Angrily, I storm to the front door. August follows behind like a shadow. The knob rattles in my grip. It's locked.
Pity. Shouldn't church doors stay open for all?
Despite his words, he doesn't sound surprised in the least.
Fortunately, I think we both know how to pick a lock.
I didn't bring the necessary tools.
I can help with that.
August produces a lockpick from somewhere in his hip pocket. I don't know whether to be relieved or disturbed. My urgency to finish this task helps me make quick work of the lock. Soon enough, August and I make our way inside. Yep, knob rattles. Lol, lol, lol. As expected, the church is quiet and empty. We tiptoe through the chapel and make our way into the back room. In the back hall, we see the door to Pastor Reese's office, and I try the knob. This is locked too.
I wonder if Pastor Reese is trying to hide something.
Or if he simply values his privacy and the privacy of those who confide in him.
Solvitor ambulando.
What does that mean?
It means the answer should become clear soon enough.
He hands me the lockpick again. I take it with a glare. We're only here to get a Bible,
We
August.
also have a rare opportunity to learn more about this church and its history. We've been investigating this church for the last few days, Erica. Why not use this chance to see if we can learn more?
Before I have to figure out any counter-argument, the locks click open. We both head inside. Pastor Reese's office is clean and organised. Now that we're here, finding his Bible is all a little too easy. I walk behind his desk, open the front drawer, and immediately I find a Bible. I open the front and find his name inscribed on the first page. I found it. Ox is staring at various pictures on the walls and shelves. I follow his gaze. I see pictures of Pastor Reese baptizing people, pictures of Pastor Reese standing with community members and leaders, Pastor Reese feeding a skinny child in Zimbabwe. The last one, August snorts loudly. You're disgusted by a man feeding a hungry child.
I'm disgusted by someone who would spend the people of Bataille's money just to fly to Africa and take a self-aggrandizing photograph.
Perhaps he wanted to save people from starvation.
Tell me, Erica, how do you, a former FBI agent, still have so much faith in humanity? Did you see any other books in that drawer?
Yes, but they don't matter. We should go now, August. He makes his way to the desk and starts riddling around. Not much later, he pulls out a hardcover
The
notebook.
church ledger. That was a little too easy to find, don't you think?
I start to make a retort, then stop myself. I'm useless to arguing with him. He already has the ledger open and is flipping through
Here
it.
we go. For the last several months, near the 13th, there was a regular donation of $1,000 from LB. But none for this month. The 13th was last week.
You think LB is Liam?
Yes, but I'm surprised I found this so quickly. Liam probably wanted to be anonymous because his family supports the Lucian Church. But Pastor Reese didn't try very hard to hide any of this.
Feels like a setup. He probably didn't expect someone to break into his office and riffle through his ledger.
Or he's hiding a deeper secret somewhere else.
Enough of this. Not everyone hides dark secrets like you do, August. A brief hint of anger flashes in August's eyes. His gaze is like steel when it meets mine, his jaws clenching tightly.
He's hiding something. I could feel it, Erica.
How often do you feel such things about people?
I'm a good judge of character. That's all.
No worries, Lakey. Have a great night. I'll be finishing up soonish. I'm basically going to play through this chapter until I start falling asleep again. And then I'm going to end. But have fun, and I'll finish off the game hopefully next Sunday. We'll have some resolution. But yeah, I didn't expect to be quite so tired. I'd have a nap, but I think I should just try and get a really early night. It just really irks me that I lose all my weekend to sleeping. But yes, have fun. Travel safe. As if to help my line of questioning, he tosses the ledger
Keep
at me.
looking through that one. Focus on the older records. See if you can find any pre-contingency details that might help our investigation.
Now that I hold the ledger in my hands, my curiosity stirs. This might be my best chance to learn more of the church's history. While I study the ledger, August continues to examine other cabinets and compartments. He runs his hand around and inside every piece of furniture. I keep flipping back through the ledger week by week, month by month. It doesn't look like LB made any big donations to the Baptist Church before the contingency.
Interesting. See any other familiar names then?
August sounds distracted, but I keep looking. Soon I've paged through 2000, 1999, but the names and businesses on the pages mean little to me.
Found it!
August slams a folder of receipts and invoices onto the table. He grins like he just discovered a treasure chest of gold.
He's a gambler.
What?
Our dear Pastor Reese has a crippling addiction. He's been gambling thousands of dollars at the Monarch Casino for the last 5 years.
I paged through a few of the invoices, just enough to confirm the sense of August's claim. How is this relevant?
I was right. He's hiding a dark secret.
I admit this isn't flattering, but isn't criminal. I'd hardly even call it unethical if he harms no one but himself.
He's a liar, he's a fraud, and I'm sure he's not just spending his own money. He spends the hard-earned dollars of Bataille's community to feed his filthy habit.
Spent, you mean? The Monarch Casino is in St. Louis. We have no casinos in Bataille.
You plan to just ignore this?
What else did you propose? You're getting way off course, August. We're trying to track down the BRS, remember?
We're trying to find the truth, and this man should be exposed.
Oh. Bye, Dan. Have fun with Milo. August and I both freeze, only twisting our heads ever so slightly towards the sound of a door closing. What's that?
Someone's here.
Who would possibly come here in the middle of the night?
Probably only the pastor himself.
Shit. August motions for me to lower my voice. Footsteps grow louder in the hallway. Frantically, I move to hide behind a large bookshelf. August positions himself next to the door, where he'll be obscured once it opens. August's gaze remains fixed on the door. My own eyes stay fixed on August. I realize I'm not just anxious about the pastor discovering us. I'm anxious about how August will react. I see August reaching into the back waistline of his pants. He seems to pull something out slowly. The door opens. Pastor Reese steps inside. The next few seconds pass in a blurred frenzy. August slips behind Pastor Reese with his arm raised. Without thinking, I cry out, "No!" Pastor Reese looks in my direction, startled. I can only hope the shadows and cabinets still obscure me from his view. I hear a bony impact, and then watch Pastor Reese crumple to the floor in a heap. My gun is in my hands, pointed at August before I realize what I've done. I see a knife in his hands at the same time. "Drop it!"
Oh, this?
He moves slowly, setting the knife on a nearby chair.
Why are you pointing a gun at me?
What did you do to Pastor Reese?
What does it look like? I knocked him out.
I never agreed to use violence.
I improvised. Now, if you would, drop your own weapon. I strongly dislike staring down the barrel of a gun.
I hesitate, glancing up at the knife and then the fallen body of Jeremy Reese. What will you do next? August stares at me long and hard, his eyes growing sharper with every passing sound.
Why are you treating me like this?
Second, even. And because for a little while I forgot who you were, then Charlotte reminded me.
What?
I saw the look on your face after we questioned Pastor Reese, then when we confirmed the gambling problem, you were overjoyed. You kill people to expose their dark secrets. Is that why you wrote a letter to the police about Blanchard?
You understand nothing.
He moves towards me, rigid with fury. I tighten my grip on my gun, but don't back away, determined to stand firm.
What the fuck did Charlotte say to you?
Don't change the subject. You're a person of interest right now. Do you want to kill Jeremy Reese? His head hangs. He takes a long, shuddering breath. I think he might be on the verge of admitting something important. Then I feel a sharp pain against the edge of my wrists. My gun goes flying out of my hands and bounces against the bookcase before falling to the floor with a heavy thud. August moves around me, turning my arm with him. I wince as he twists my wrist to a painful angle. His voice tickles my ear as he talks.
Please don't struggle. I don't want to hurt you.
Let me go.
Will you stop with your gun in my face?
All right. For now, I'll put it back in its holster.
For now?
Until you do something else stupid.
Not good enough. If we're going to be partners, Erica, I need you to treat me like one.
I can't promise to holster it indefinitely. I wouldn't promise that to anyone.
You do like your gun, don't you? Fine. For now, I'll just take the bullets out, so we can have a civilized conversation as adults. Agreed?
Agreed, but I'll get the bullets back, right? I have a limited supply.
Eventually.
He pushes me away, firmly enough to force me a few feet from the gun, then he swoops down to retrieve it. Seeing him hold my gun, my stomach twists in a knot, but he sticks to our agreement and empties the cartridge, then hands it back.
Now then, where were we? You said Charlotte reminded you who I was. What did you mean by that?
She came to the precinct a couple of days ago. She wanted to know more about your crimes as a heartbreaker.
Why on earth would she ask about that? Do they want to frame me again?
I wondered the same thing, but I can't imagine they can do that again and get away with it, so I answered some of her questions.
So, you relived the Heartbreaker's crimes by explaining them in detail to Charlotte. Is that why you've been so anxious around me lately? You said this was a couple days ago, so it was shortly after you chose me as your partner?
Yes, it was after we talked to Pastor Kimberly at the Lucian Church. I assumed that's how we knew she knew we were working together. August rubs his chin for a moment, deep in thought.
What aspect of the Heartbreaker was she most interested in?
She wanted to know everything I could tell her, but in the end she seemed most interested in how you got caught. She thought your weakness was that you wanted to expose Blanchard for his crimes. She thought
So
that was your
Charlotte planted
motivation.
this fucking idea in your head. Then somehow we ended up in Pastor Reese's office.
What are you thinking? He turns around suddenly. He storms across the room and retrieves his knife and the Bible, then starts for the door. August, where are you going?
We got the Bible. Now I have something else to investigate. I'll deliver the Bible to the drop-off point. Just let me know when the next letter arrives, yes?
But Pastor Jeremy,
As I said, he'll be fine.
I'm not going to. August glares down at Jeremy Reese with something akin to disgust.
I can assure you, Pastor Reese no longer holds my attention in the slightest.
Just like that, August vanishes. I spend the first part of the night afraid, worried that August might come for me. Then the more I think about what happened to the church, the more I start to worry about someone else. August assured me he wasn't interested in Pastor Reese, but I can't help but think that might be a lie. He lied to me about being the Heartbreaker, and I'm starting to suspect he lied about his interest in the church. Why would he suddenly tell the truth now? Early in the morning, I head back to the church to check on the pastor and the situation in general. At first, I'm terrified that something awful has already happened. I knock incessantly on the door, and no one answers for a few minutes. But then at last the door's open, and Pastor Reese looks out at me, nursing his head. Sheriff, I was just about to send someone to go find you. I hold my breath, waiting for him to confirm or deny that he saw me in the church the last night. I was attacked right here in my church. I exhale. Really? I received a report of a disturbance here a few hours ago. I was asleep, so I didn't hear about it until just before I left. Did they take anything? I can start questioning a few folk who've been caught in similar circumstances. More importantly, though, are you all right? I don't know. I don't really understand it. Nothing seems to be missing. Whoever did this must just have wanted to knock me over my head. Wait, nothing's missing? Everything looks ransacked, that's for sure, but nothing valuable was taken. For just a moment, I think I understand a bit of the anger August felt towards Pastor Reese. Knowing how much money he was getting from the people of Pateo for what he preaches, it's rather distressing that to realise he hasn't even noticed that his Bible is missing. What? I mean, do you have any idea of who might want to do this to you? Do you have any enemies in Pateo? I realise that's a strange thing to ask the pastor, but I have to cover my bases. Oh, I have a good idea that he was one of those blasphemous fools over at what used to be United Methodist. They are here to cause trouble, Sheriff, and I think they've just escalated their sinister game. Is there anything else you can tell me? I know there were two of them, a man and a woman. I heard a woman shout, and then felt the man hit me from behind. How do you know it was a man? Of course it was. He took me down with one blow. I feel the seething feeling creep back into my mind. I hold back. I don't want to raise my voice and remind him of the woman he heard in his office last night. I know this might sound a little strange, but I just have a gut feeling that whoever did this might try to come back and hurt you again. That doesn't sound strange at all. Of course they would. This is surely some step in a concerted effort to harass and frighten me. I'm going to have my deputy come over and keep you safe. That awful man you brought over yesterday, No, he's not my deputy. He's just consulting me. Talking about Madeline Gray. You can trust her too. Her? You really ought to have a better mind about who you associate with, young woman. What's your problem with Maddie? Well... Wait, no, I probably don't want to hear you say it. I just wish our sheriff was a bit more in line with the rest of the town, that's all. I suppose it's no wonder there are random hooligans running around and playing pranks on me. Part of me wants to precisely tell him what we took just to see his reaction, but I know it's meaningless. Still, I can't let it go. I have to do something, even if it's risky. I'm done here. Give me a call when you notice something missing. So I'm leaving. I realise it's something August might do. An intentional slip of the tongue that I know won't be my downfall because the only person who hears it is too short-sighted to understand the meaning. I brace myself to see August when I enter the precinct in City Hall. My visit with Pastor Reese has made me a bit more sympathetic towards his view of the man. I can't forget the sight of August standing over Reese's fallen body with a knife. Turns out I had nothing to worry about. August isn't even there. It's only Maddie and Liam. I suppose he's avoiding me too.
Hey, boss.
Where's August? I figured he'd be here bright and early to quiz me on all these City Hall documents. August is, well, we had a bit of an argument. Oh, no, I knew he was a bad partner to pick. I understood it, I suppose, but in the end... I'm not sure I'd say that. I think it's good I'm keeping an eye on him, even if I don't really want to see him today. What happened? I'm still not entirely sure. He lashed out at me, and I'm worried he's planning to cause some trouble.
Sounds bad.
We should go and get him back here in a cell. With Liam, I'm sure that will go well. Oh. Besides, he hasn't really done anything yet. I know that's not true, but breaking into a church and knocking out the pastor was in all service of helping me. He didn't hurt anyone otherwise, even though he sure looked like he might. How's everything here this morning? Quiet as usual. Haven't received any calls, so I've just had my head buried in all this ancient paperwork. No calls, not even from First Baptist? No, none at all. It's curious why Pastor Reese didn't report the assault, and only told me about it because I happened upon him. Was there some reason he preferred to keep it quiet? At least until the opportunity forced himself upon him? Why would you ask about First Baptist? Oh yeah, we never get around to telling you what the BRS asked us to do.
So spit it out.
You're right, you didn't, so what's with all the secrecy? I glance over at Liam, who seems to have stopped helping with going through the paperwork, as instead lying on his bunk, staring up at the ceiling. I haven't really had a good opportunity, if you know what I mean.
Oh.
Well, I have a good excuse for us going into the hall right now. You do? The mayor's in his office this morning. Didn't you want to ask him about the satellite dish? I know that August wanted to be here for this, but she makes a good point, and I kind of feel like denying something from him right now. Let's do it. We just went through a wall. We head out into the hall and close the door. For real, what happened at the church? August discovered that Pastor Reese has been gambling the church funds before the contingency. I think he wanted to kill him.
What?
I'm not surprised about the church. I always knew that man was up to no good. But you really think August? Why would he care so much about gambling anyway? It's not that he cares about the church, it's that it made Reese a possible heartbreaker victim. What do you mean? No one ever sussed out the heartbreaker's real motive, but something Charlotte Mateo said got me thinking.
This is crazy!
Charlotte, this conversation is just full of surprises. I think he wanted the media and police to dig into the lives of his victims and discover their secrets in the search for a motive. Unfortunately, he displayed his victims so distinctly that after a few kills, people stopped caring about that kind of motive because they knew he was a serial killer. I suppose that's why he got into an argument. Well, that's when Pastor Reese showed up before we could leave and August knocked him out. He looked like he might do something else. I stopped him, but... So you were expecting a call from the pastor? Are you sure he's still alive? You don't think August went back and... That's what I checked on first thing in the morning. He's still alive, just didn't report the attack. Strange. I know.
Still.
Well, we should talk to the mayor while we can. You have all the time in the world to investigate the attack on the pastor. You seem surprisingly not upset about all of this.
I don't want to
Pastor
talk
Reese and
about it.
I, we have a history. I really don't want to talk about it. I don't know. I always feel like I'm on August's side here. Yeah, but like I said, you don't have to explain anything. I probably know what you mean. Let's just not think about that and get this conversation with Mayor Ward over with. Mayor Ward, as usual, not terribly busy in his office. He's reclining in his office reading a book. I sometimes wonder what his actual responsibilities are now, especially as I've come to realise how much control the Battales have over the town. Oh, Sheriff Wright, Miss Gray, come in. What can I help you with? We have a bit of a strange request. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised with everything that's going on right now. I don't know if I'll be able to help you, but... It's about something from before the contingency. Think back a few years ago. Do you remember the installation of a satellite dish at City Hall? What? A satellite dish? Show me the invoice that Maddie found in the file room. It looks like you signed off on this invoice from Mann Brothers Electrical. Does that sound right? I'm confused, Sheriff. With everything else going on in the town, including Principal Vincent's murder, you're fixated on a construction invoice from 1998?
About that.
To be fair, we solved that murder. What does this have to do with anything? Well, Maddie is familiar with the company who installed the dish. She says that they don't do work on buildings over 3 stories. I'm still struggling to see the importance. City Hall is easily over 3 stories, but it wasn't then. Yes, we all know that's why this makes sense.
So many questions.
Every other document I've seen in the file room indicates that the building has always been this tall. Every document except this one. This has to be important. A lot of very strange things have happened in this town, Sheriff. This seems fairly low down on the list of them. Don't you want to know what's up there on those other floors? Do you think Jessica Murdoch and Gary Reader up there?
Well,
I mean, it's possible. Please try and focus on the actual issues facing Battail, Sheriff Wright. Can you please just humour me for a couple of questions? Fine. Do you remember using these specific contractors back then? Honestly, not really. It was a while ago, and I'm sure we just put out a request for bids and picked the most reasonable one. The name sounds familiar, but I couldn't tell you much more about them. I suppose you wouldn't remember any conflict over the height of City Hall if you recall it being much smaller. It's one of the reasons I don't think this is a terribly useful line of inquiry. However, I agree to answer your question, so if you have anything else. Where on the roof was the satellite dish placed? I know the reason we got it was a federal grant for law enforcement technology improvements. I think it was something about connecting all the different police departments across the country to a centralised database. Not even sure they ever got the damn thing working. But since the people of Battail didn't have to pay for it, who was I to turn the thing down? You know, a corrupt mayor would have just taken their money and not installed the dish, but I stuck to my word. You didn't answer my question about where it's installed. Somewhere on the roof above the police department. There aren't any cables like that now. The whole damn building changed, what do you expect? Besides, what does it matter? We can't even get broadcast TV. Let me tell you, my wife is livid that she has no idea what is happening on Passions right now. So the whole satellite dish moved up 100 feet in the air somehow, but it couldn't extend the cabling. I just don't understand what you're getting from poking at this. There are so many more weird things here in Battail. Yes, but this is one where there's an inconsistency. There's a piece of paperwork that doesn't fit with all the rest. You solve a mystery by prying at its weak spots. I have to stop myself as I realise I'm sounding a bit like August. Well, you know. You sound an awful lot like August, boss. Yes, I know that. Remember how August first approached this mystery? He tried to break through the ceiling with an axe and it was impenetrable. But he only tried a few spots. I need to know exactly where the dish was installed above the ceiling. I don't remember. You have to ask cable guy, Ben O'Doyle. You'll probably know. Used to do that sort of work. Any other questions? What else is on the roof? I'm curious if anything else has changed position. I think we had some of the HVAC equipment up there. Interesting that it still works. I'm glad. I'd hate to be in here without air conditioning once summer picks up still. Why wouldn't it still work? Well, it's either inside whatever the second floor is or up on the roof, which would mean that there's an entire complex HVAC system throughout the whole building. Even that wouldn't make sense. I'm not sure I follow. There's no way that the equipment you had up on the roof would be able to heat or cool this entire building. Of course, perhaps it is entirely directed down towards this floor and... Now you're going to start asking me about other contractors and construction projects. I'm too busy for any of this. You are? If you have any other questions, please just spit them out. That's all I need for now. I'm sorry to have bothered you. I suppose I'll let you get back to more important matters. He gestured towards the book he was reading dismissively. He says there's nothing as Maddie and I leave the office. Wow, boss, you sure seem more, something. Or something.
maybe.
Less diplomatic? I don't know, but I like it. I'm surely curious. Satellite dish we can somehow break through and figure out what's in? But I think Ben O'Doyle was the person causing disruption at the diner? I don't know, the name sounds familiar. The rest of the day is surprisingly uneventful. August never appears at City Hall. I don't make an effort to visit him, and I go home where I spend a quiet evening. The next morning, as I walk to the precinct, my walkie-talkie crackles to life. Okay. Sheriff, right. Are you there? I think... I don't know who is talking. Sheriff, right. Are you there? I think we may need some assistance down at United Model Church. I grab my walkie-talkie. I recognize Fred's voice on the other end, breathing heavily. What's going on? There's a lot of yelling, something about attack last night. Pastor Reese is here. People are throwing things. I don't really know, but you should get down here. Almost immediately I have a guess of what's happening. Reese blamed Lucians for his attack, and now it's time for retaliation. I'd be tempted to let this run its course, but this time I know I'm the one responsible for all of this. I should at least try and clean it up. I'll be right there. By the time I arrive at Battail United Modal, the situation is already spiralling out of control. The door is locked, presumably barricaded from the inside. The windows are covered except for one that's already broken. Several people are outside yelling for Kimberly to come out and confess. One of them is pounding on the door with what looks like a crowbar. I raise my voice as loud as possible and shout at the crowd. Everyone just calm down! With the credit of the people trying to storm the church, they stop, at least for a moment. From around the side of the church, I see a familiar figure emerge, Pastor Reese still rubbing his head from where August hit him. It's not surprising he's behind this, just that he'd show his face. Sheriff, I tried to discourage them from this, but there was really no talking them down. Sure you did. Is that why you're here? I'm here watching them because I think under my careful gaze they won't take this too far. They've already taken it too far, Pastor. I see at least one broken window and a man striking the door with a crowbar. These people attacked me last night, Sheriff, and they took something from me. We're just here to get it back. You finally noticed something missing? They took my personal Bible. I'd like it back. I don't think the Lucians took your Bible, Pastor. Then they won't mind letting us in to search around. That's a big ask. You trying to tell us that we don't have the right to get some justice for what happened last night? You don't know that anyone in there is responsible for the attack. Besides, justice is my job, not yours. I don't see you doing your job. I only knew about the attack because I stopped by your church this morning, and you didn't report the theft. How about this? You back off for now, I go inside, I talk to Pastor Kimberly and see if your Bible is anywhere in there. Is that acceptable? I suppose. I remember to ask an important question that I already know the answer to. What does the book look like? It's a real Bible. It would stand out among their heretic rip-offs. I was looking for a cover colour or... It's a blue cover. It says Holy Bible on the front. There are some notes inside that I made for future sermons. For a second I think of August and hope he thought to look through these notes. I don't even know why I hope that. I just suspect he'd find them interesting. If it's in there, which I doubt, I will retrieve it and we will go from there. Thank you, Sheriff. I approach the door cautiously. Reese motions for the two people trying to break it open to give me some room. Pastor Kimberly, it's Sheriff Wright. I'm here to clear all of this up. I want to show these people you and your followers haven't done anything wrong. First, I'm not sure she heard me. I listen at the door. Unfortunately, you can tell she's moving something away and into the hallway. Then she unlocks the door and opens it just a sliver. Just you? I glare at the two men who were trying to break down the door. They back off even more. Just me. Okay, come in. Kimberly is alone in Battelle United Modal Church as she leaves me away from the door and between the pews towards the altar. Sheriff, what in the world is going on? Pastor Reese at First Baptist was attacked last night. Some people from his church think you're responsible. Well, we're not. I know there have been some violent episodes between our followers and his, but mostly just little scuffles on the street here and there. And I think most of those probably come from other underlying personal issues, rather than having anything to do with the church. I know you're not responsible. You do? Well, it seems very unlike your followers to do anything so brazen and obvious. I'm just surprised you trust me so immediately. I know a misguided mob when I see one. Now, it just seems that Pastor Reese's personal Bible was stolen from the church. I need to take a look around, verify that it's not here, and hopefully they'll believe me. If not, maybe I can escort one of them in here and... My voice trails off as I see the look on Pastor Kimberly's face darken. What's wrong? Here's the thing, Sheriff. If that's what he claims, well then this just got a lot more complicated. Why? Because I think we do have his Bible. I'm dumbfounded. This should be impossible unless... You're going to have to explain this to me, Pastor. I wish I could. When I came in this morning for a few meetings I had with members of the church, there was a Bible I'd never seen before sitting on my desk. I immediately knew it wasn't one of ours, but I didn't know. I swear it wasn't one of ours. I believe you, but we're going to have to find a way to sell this to the people outside. You want to lie to them? Absolutely. I know you didn't take this. Someone is manipulating you and the people out there. We need to do whatever we can to mitigate that. I understand, but I will get to the bottom of this. I have a pretty good idea of where I should go to. Go back outside and tell the Baptist crowd that I have a lead on who stole the Bible. I warn them that if they don't leave now, I'll enact a restraining order in order to protect Pastor Kimberly. I don't tell Pastor Reese I found his Bible. If I gave it to him now, that would only make Kimberly look more suspicious. Besides, I don't believe he deserves to get it back. Finally, I make my way towards the true culprit behind today's chaos, August Flynn. My heart races ahead of me on my way to August's home. What am I walking towards? I suppose if all August did in the last few days is plant a Bible in the wrong church, then I should be relieved, but it feels like the tip of an iceberg. I should have checked on August sooner. What's he been doing for the last couple of days? His door, I raise my hand to knock. Did I hear something like the sound of a woman's cry? My stomach turns to somersaults. Who does August have in there? Fearing the worst, I draw my gun, lift my foot, and kick open the door. He's probably watching porn. Well, splinters flying to the house as the door breaks open in front of me. I leap inside with gun at the ready. Stop right there, or... He's sitting at the table, pouring wine from a bottle into a glass. Charlotte's tail holds the other side of the glass. Once he recovers from his surprise, August gives me an icy stare. Charlotte just smirks, then drinks from her partially filled glass. Oh,
The door wasn't even locked, Erica.
I thought I heard someone in distress. Charlotte laughs, demonstrating clearly that she was the source of the noise.
Perhaps I was distressed by one of August's bad jokes. But I'm sure you know the feeling, Erica, darling.
Belatedly release my gun in the holster. My expression of embarrassment hardens into a frown. What are you doing here,
I was
Charlotte?
having a glass of wine and enjoying August's company.
It's still morning.
For me, it's quite late. But never mind. Are you going to arrest us for drinking during daylight?
No, I need to talk to August.
Are you here to accuse me of something new, or just the usual?
May I speak to you alone?
You might as well say it in front of Charlotte. She knows everything.
She does?
I do?
Charlotte looks as confused as I do.
Go ahead and say what you came to say, Erica.
It's about the Bible.
The Bible we stole from Pastor Reese for the Bateo Repatriation Society.
I flinch and glance at Charlotte again. You shouldn't tell anyone about that, August.
As I said, Charlotte already knows. Please, go on.
Charlotte still looks confused. What game is August playing now? You said you would take it to the drop-off point. You didn't. Apparently Pastor Reese's Bible showed up in the Lucian church. Now the Christians came, the Lucians stole it, and they're trying to break in.
Now that's a standoff I'd like to see. But if you think I arranged this conflict, Erica, then you're wrong. The one who planted the Bible in the church is Charlotte.
Charlotte blinks at August in shock. She looks from August to me and back again, mouth hanging open, long before any words come out.
I don't know what you are talking about.
Why not? You're the one who picked up the Bible from the train station, then planted it at the Lucian church. I saw you do it.
Charlotte's stare hardens on August.
No, you didn't.
Perhaps you didn't pick it up, but I know you handled it at some point.
What are you trying to say, August?
I thought I spoke quite plainly. Charlotte is the culprit you're looking for.
He pulls out a flashlight I recognize. It has an ultraviolet bulb. It shines it on Charlotte's hand.
What are you?
We all notice the light green stain on her fingers at the same time. Then he appears under the ultraviolet light.
I borrowed this theft detection powder from the precinct, then put it on the Bible before I dropped it off at the train station. Now it's on Charlotte's hands.
Charlotte draws back her hands and folds it against the leg. Her expression flickers between a scowl and a grin.
How clever. So, you didn't invite me to breakfast for my illustrious company?
Oh, I wanted your company, too. I learned quite a lot about you by observing it. I already suspected your connection to the BRS, but I knew Erica would want solid proof. There it is, on your hands.
Why? How?
Good questions. I can only guess as to why Charlotte would do any of this, but I suspect it entertains her. When you told me Charlotte asked you questions about the Heartbreaker only a day after you selected me as partner, it was quite obvious. She wanted to manipulate me. She wanted to better understand the Heartbreaker's motives so she could inspire me to kill someone. Isn't that so, Charlotte dear?
Charlotte stares at August long and hard before answering. She's clearly distraught, but also impressed.
Well, did it work?
Not in the way you intended, I suspect.
The glimmer in his eyes sends a chill down my spine. I think it was a gilded threat.
I see.
I feel the murderous intent from both of them, like static in the air. I'm tempted to draw my gun again before Charlotte has the chance to attack. Yeah, I ain't drawing my gun.
You really think you can kill me?
I don't know. Probably not. But I'm prone to making foolish decisions.
I'm not sure whether I want you to try. I want to show you your place, but I'd hate to kill you. You're so much fun to play with, August Flynn.
I do my best. So, would you enlighten us, Charlotte? How long have you been faking letters from the BRS?
I don't have to tell you anything.
Perhaps, but wouldn't it be nice to take credit for how well you've manipulated us so far?
Charlotte's eyes glitter as she turns them on
I
me.
might have faked a letter or two. I won't say how many.
Is the Battail Repatriation Society even real?
Yes. Yes, it is. But they are dangerous, too.
I see. Fascinating.
Catch August's gaze, and I see a warning in it. It wants me to drop this line of questioning. With effort, I turn my next question to a different topic. Why did you plant the Christian Bible in the Lucian Church?
To see what would happen, and to give you some work to do. You like a good mystery, don't you, Erica? You're welcome.
She stands from the table very slowly. She stretches her arms and fingers almost like a cat.
Well, the game was fun while it lasted, but now I must decide what to do with you both. You invited me into your home, August. You confronted me here without any defense. How incredibly foolish.
I can't disagree.
Or perhaps you have a larger scheme, one I haven't noticed yet?
I think you overestimate me.
Perhaps. Or perhaps the game isn't over yet.
I feel like that is literally the perfect place to end the stream. Yeah, I haven't fallen asleep yet, so I'm just finishing off as much as I can of this chapter. But it's like, we'll carry on.
Very well, I'll leave you both to argue over this little discovery. But know that I am watching, and I can kill you both on a whim. Thank you for the wine, Augie, and for the various levels of entertainment.
Anytime. But don't call me Augie. Please.
Smirking all the while, Charlotte saunters from the room, exits the house, and closes the door behind her. I stand rooted for some time, breathing raggedly. I can't look August in the face, but I don't want to leave, because that's the direction Charlotte went.
Well, aren't you going to say something? You could start with thank you, or I'm sorry, or perhaps both.
You're the heartbreaker. You practically admitted it.
I don't accept that nickname. But, insofar as you understand it, yes, I was.
My stomach knots. Whoa! Hi, Dopey. Thank you for the raid. Why does this always happen? Mixed. Oh my god. And Leah! Hi, Leah! Jesus Christ. Lucius Christ. Okay, fine. We're going to continue for a little bit because everyone just raided. So much for me going, oh, well, I'm really close to finishing. We'll find out more about the Heartbreaker killing then. Hi, everyone. Welcome in. I'm Joe. No, I'm sort of saying I was going to go until I felt like I was going to sleep again, and I haven't felt like that, and they voiced this bit. And we're about to find out possibly some important story, but no, it's fine. I'll go for a little bit longer, and then we can go and raid Jesse, because I think he's just started streaming. But I appreciate the raids. Thank you so much, Dopey and Leah. And I'll continue for a little bit. For everyone that's come in that doesn't know me, hi, I'm Joe. I'm currently streaming a visual novel in which I do some of the voices. It's a half-voiced visual novel, and I also stream other indie games on a regular basis. So yeah, this one has murderers and vampires, so you know, it's quite cool. My stomach knots. I finally look up to meet his gaze, wondering if I'll find another tease or trick. His gaze is sharp as a knife, steeled with intention. He breaks my gaze first, his eyes falling to the floor. I try to speak, but it takes me several attempts to find enough breath. Why? Why did you...
Let's get into that another time, shall we?
Oh,
I'm not
come
even sure
on.
how I would explain it to you. I follow the forces of Misrule. I aid pandemonium. I seek to destroy the cages people build around their own minds.
You kill people. Innocent people.
No one is innocent. But there are those who are evil, and they're the ones building cages.
You're crazy. You're a murdering psychopath.
Do not say that. Damn it, Erica. I just showed you that Charlotte Mateo is the one playing us like puppets, manipulating this whole fucking town. And still, you're stuck in your rigid notion of my crimes. Charlotte faked the BRS letters. She probably faked the ones about Jessica and Gary, too. They're probably dead, perhaps at her hand. I am not the evil you need to hunt.
Sheriff Ride! Erica! Are you there?
Trembling, I lift my walkie-talkie to reply. Copy. Sheriff Wright here. What's going on, Maddie?
Could you come back to the precinct, please? These church folk are driving me crazy. About 30 of them are outside, Lucians and Christians yelling and blaming each other for anything and everything. Well, I tried talking to them, but it's no use. I think you and Mayor Ward need to do something about this.
Copy that. I'm on my way. I put up the walkie. Another awkward silence hangs in the room. When August next speaks, his voice is sharp with pain and disappointment. I really want to know about the symbols he used.
By all means, go lay down the law, Sheriff.
I think...
Get the fuck out.
His tone hits me like a slap. My stomach turns so badly I think I might throw up. I turn and stumble out the house as commanded. I flinch as I hear the door close behind me. It's a dangerous man. So we're isolated in this one. Oh, that's the end of the chapter. I really am going to end now. I do apologise to everyone that came in on the raid, but I was waiting for the end of chapter 7. 8, 9, 10 will be next week on Sunday. I didn't expect to get to the end of the chapter this stream because I was falling asleep, but I managed to get another 40 minutes past when I was supposed to finish. So I am going to be ending now. Thank you so much for raiding though. I do appreciate it and just wish I had more impetus to continue and I'm very tired. I need to call my grandpa. So let's go over and raid Jessie, who has just started streaming. Struggling. Hopefully you enjoyed Storytime with Joe. I do this on a semi-regular basis. I will be finishing off the story in Crimson Spires next Sunday at 3 PM UK time, which, if you work backwards from your time, was approximately 3 hours and 40 minutes ago. So hopefully you enjoyed the stream. Thank you so much for the raids. From Dopey and Leah, thank you so much to Leaky for gifting a sub to Lady Magritte. And thank you so much to everyone who's been here, lurking, watching, talking. It all means a lot. So, for now, I will be back on Tuesday at 8 PM UK time with Lake, which is a new game that came out about being a postperson, or postal worker in a rural town around a lake, which looks really nice and calming and interesting. So we'll pick that up on Tuesday, and on Thursday we're going to be a cat causing as much damage and mischief as possible in Cat Lateral Damage Remastered Edition. So hopefully I will catch you then. If not, I'm back at the weekend with my usual Cozy Saturday and Storytime streams on Sunday. For now, I've been Jo, otherwise known as Angel SK. I wish you goodbye.